Akya.
Hotep family, welcome back to class number 3, week number 3, with Brother Keenan Booker on webinar number 3 and volume number 3 of Kicked Out of Heaven. Welcome back to the platform, Keenan Booker. What's going on, good doc?
What's going on? I really appreciate all of y'all showing up, especially all the black ladies, the energy. I can smell the incense in the air. Okay.
The sage and everything.
Yeah, the sage. Okay.
That's right.
So we're here.
Is being represented here tonight.
Yeah, I really appreciate it because Shock is actually the first to go through volume 2 and volume 3 with me and handle all my wild verbiage and all my arguments and all my foot stomping, you know. Yeah, I mean, you know, you handled it, bro. You handled it like a West Coast gangster, you know, you out there in Sacramento, you know. Hey, a lot of people can't handle me. A lot of people in the conscious movement be like, oh, this nigga too wild. I was like,
yeah, too crazy, too
nah, I'm still playing Al Green over here. You understand? Okay. You ain't doing none of that. You dig? So yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I love that.
So that's how we go keep it. And today I got a pleasant surprise for y'all. I got actually more than one pleasant surprise for y'all, but we do have to start out a little bit rough. We're gonna go through the Inquisitions. This is the first time I've been able to speak on the Spanish Inquisitions with anybody, and I know this audience can handle it. Yeah, nobody goes through this because it's touchy. I dug up the worst of the worst that I could find, and actually there's worse information than what I've discovered, because the secret about writing a book is when you write a book and you say, okay, I'm going to shut it down and this is it, enough information, we're going to put it together and close it out. As soon as you close it out and get your ISBN and get your barcode, woof, a whole boatload is like, you miss me over here. Because when you're shutting down the book, there's a lot of information comes at you. It's like, put me in, I want to be in, you know, it's like, it's like they're chasing the school bus or something.
Oh, you got that right.
And then when you shut it down, it's like, you forgot me. You don't know what you're talking about. Right. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that type of thing occurs. And yeah, so the Spanish Inquisition is important, and I'm about to show you why on the first, but I do want to get your minds ready. There's not a lot of crazy pictures. We will go through the Catholic torture chamber that was being used at that time. Each volume does have its own torture chamber, and I didn't even notice that until one of my friends pointed it out, you know, and because to be honest, it was an executioner that said, okay, we're going on this route. That was the first guy I met that was like an entity I could feel. His name was Franz Schmidt. That was in the first volume. Yeah, you've heard the story more than once, Shock. You know, Franz Schmidt, he was an executioner in Germany. He was very alone when I showed up. He was very happy I showed up. And he was basically the one that led the route on what was going on in here.
And kind of was your guide.
Yeah, I mean, because right, and as you all have read this material, as when I first put it together, a lot of people were like, yo, you composed a time machine. Like when I read this stuff, I am there. The only thing that's not there is the smells. I was like, yeah, because you got your potpourri going. But, if your potpourri was off, a draft will come through. So yeah, let's get this thing rolling. This thing rolling. Okay, let me see here. Yeah, I can see. Okay, y'all feel it. Y'all can feel the passion on the cover now. I felt that energy right there. So let me see here. Let me go ahead and put this to the full screen thing. Okay, so right here, this is going to lead us into what's going to happen when me and Shock have the Voodoo Edition show. The volume 3 is actually a little bit connected to that. And we're going to show you right here on the first slide. Right here, you see a group of people called the Waldensians. The Waldensians were a heretical group. So there was other heretical groups like the Brotherhood of Peace, the Luciferians, which we're going to talk about right after this group. And these people were considered heretics that were worshiping the devil, supposedly. And this is what allowed, Catholicism to go ahead and do the Spanish Inquisition and quote unquote purge these people out of existence. Part of the purging was that these people were kicked out of France and sent to the Caribbean islands. When they went to the Caribbean islands, they were in the same regions as the practitioners of Vodun. Vodun plus Waldensian equals voodoo. It's a combination of magic sciences. This is what also brought in the light skin. This is also what brought in the anger, and there's a lot of anger in the Haiti, and that anger is defined by light skin Creole. Okay, but all of that is explained in the voodoo edition that we'll be going through here. So let me go ahead and read some of this. A treatise of the early 15th century. When they say the 15th century, that's actually the 1400s to 1500. Okay, because 0 to 1 is not called, it's called the first century. Okay, so then the second century is 1 to 2, so on and so forth. Right. So a treatise of the early 15th century, the Eros Valdensian. You see that word? Valdensian. Claims of the Waldensians that they kissed the posterior parts of a demon in cat form, and that they flew to their meetings in a twinkling of an eye on a staff rubbed with the magic salve. We went over the magic salve and what that was, right? The problem of why the apostolic-minded Waldensians should have become associated with diabolism has long interested historians. Apparently, the identification of witches and Waldensians were numerous enough to cause the Orthodox inhabitants to refer to all heretics by that name, just as earlier the Germans had come to refer to all heretics as Cathari, from which the German Ketzer, heretic, derives. The confusion was so pronounced that often as a trial of Waldensians at Freiburg in 1399, it is difficult to say whether the accused were really Waldensians, other heretics, or witches. Again, like the Catharists, the Waldensians were supposedly sexually depraved, and by the beginning of the 15th century, a sex fiend was often termed Vaudois, okay, which was also given as a nickname for the group. And that's Vaudois, that's spelled Vaudois, okay? From the Alps, the identification spread through southern and then northern France, though it was seldom used beyond French-speaking lands. The term was finally adopted formally in a bull used on March 23rd, 1440, by Pope Eugenius IV. It was justified by theologians on the grounds that the Waldensians, though originally devoted to poverty and asceticism, had gradually become committed to witchcraft, and the distinction between Waldenses, Waldensians, and Waldenses, which are old-fashioned Waldensians, was soon lost. The identification was so firmly mixed that Valderi came to be a synonym for the Sabbath, and Aller and Valderi meant to go to the Sabbath, okay? Okay. By mid-April, it became clear that the Duke's efforts to force the Vaudois to conform to Catholicism had failed. He tried another approach. Under the guise of false reports of Vaudois uprisings, the Duke sent troops into the upper valleys to quell the local populace. He required that the local populace quarter the troops in their homes, which the local populace complied with. But the quartering order was a ruse to allow the troops easy access to the populace. On the 24th of April, 1655 at 4 a.m., the signal was given for a general massacre. The Duke's forces did not simply slaughter the inhabitants. They are reported to have unleashed an unprovoked campaign of looting, rape, torture, and murder, according to one report by Peter Lieg. Little children were torn from the arms of their mothers, clasped by their tiny feet and their heads dashed against the rocks, or were held between two soldiers and their quivering limbs torn up by main force. Their mangled bodies were then thrown on the highways or fields to be devoured by beasts. The sick and the aged were burned alive in their dwellings. Some had their hands and arms and legs lopped off, and fire applied to the severed parts to staunch the bleeding and prolong their suffering. Some were flayed alive, some were roasted alive, some disemboweled or tied to trees in their own orchards and their hearts cut out. Some were horribly mutilated, and of others their brains were boiled and eaten by these cannibals. Some were fastened down into the furrows or their own fields and plowed into the soil as men plow manure into it. Others were buried alive. Fathers were marched to death with the heads of their sons suspended around their necks. Parents were compelled to look on while their children, first outraged or were raped, then massacred for being, let me see here. For being, I'm trying to move this thing. Okay. For being themselves permitted to die. Okay. So that was some of the forms when it came to.
That's psychopathic behavior, fam.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to it because
that's psychopathic behavior.
Let me tell you,
mentally healthy people can't even fathom shit like this. Let alone engage in it.
Well, I would tell you the Moors of the 800s were the Moors.
Yeah, that's what we're getting ready to find out.
Yeah, the Moors in the 900s and 1000s were doing similar activity to them. It's almost safe to say, well, I can't say that because, like I stated earlier, there was far worse activity going on in Greece, And then once again, we weren't there, but the documents do say this. But I will say this: right now on your own computers, you can open up another tab and put in Waldensian massacre and click images, and you'll see it right there. There's a lot of drawings that shows what was going down. And, this is their history. So just to let you know, when it comes to my internal disgust and dislike of horror movies and wanting to find out where that psychological mind, where that status came from, where it's here, right here. But that also shows you that they're clear within their DNA. So that means that they could read their own DNA strands psychologically by understanding what was going on in history related to their culture, related to their race. These are some of those events. Okay, those are just.
Remember the family of the work that I've done on fascination violence. You see that here as well.
So let me see here. Let me move this thing. Okay. So the Luciferians, I know you've maybe heard that name before with other scholars. I definitely had. So when I encountered this heretic area and I ran across the Luciferians, I definitely had to put them in here. But I want you to know that some of this activity are embodiments of the psychological perception of how they perceived the religious information. And some would say, for instance, the snake of the Garden of Eden was divine because if it wasn't for the snake, then they wouldn't have gotten knowledge, Adam and Eve, And then there's another group that worships the apple because they say the apple is divine because the apple was supposed to be the fruit that they ate. It was symbolized as, or some people would worship the woman and say, the woman was divine in the Garden of Eden scenario because she was bold enough to listen to the snake and go to get the knowledge. So I put that to show you that there is a lot of different mission statements that different groups were developed from over time. And some of these heretical groups fit within that space. But then at the same time, they also could be a mirror of orders that were in ancient Egypt. Okay. And when you understand the metaphysics and the alchemy on a larger scale, you see. So we have small groups that mirror different orders that were of ancient Egypt, and then Catholicism within itself devours that small group. Then we have taken the knowledge of what that group is. And that's what the game is. It's like the hippo. the hungry hippo that comes out and grabs the ball. You know, they're coming out grabbing everything. We're grabbing the pagans, we're grabbing the heretics, we're grabbing the witches, we're grabbing the werewolves, and you will be devoured into the gut of Catholicism. You see what I'm saying? And we will embody the entirety of the dark side magic and the light side magic. Do you follow me? Was that too complex right there? Okay. Just making sure everybody get, okay, just make sure you got it. The Luciferians in 12, now also understand that is a possibility in how I've seen it, because I had to go through the information repetitively. So it developed in thought over time. Okay. So the Luciferians in 1227, Gregory the Ninth ordered Conrad. Conrad was one of the top inquisitors during the time. Conrad to investigate a sect in Germany known as the Luciferians. This group considered that everything worldly was evil, and as God could not have created evil, it followed that the devil must have made the world. You see the logic? There's different forms of logic that was developed as mission statements that these groups were developed under, okay? Conrad departed on his mission, but received word en route that Elizabeth had died as a result of her life of exaggerated asceticism. Conrad suffered a complete collapse at the news. He was unable to continue with his crusade and could do nothing but send letters to the Pope imploring him to have Elizabeth made a saint. Another inquisitor, Conrad Torres, had to be sent to investigate the Luciferians. Torres adopted as his motto, "It is fitting to burn 100 innocent in order to destroy one heretic among them." When accounts of Torres' exploits reached Conrad, he was galvanized into activity. He displaced Torres and assumed command of the investigation. When a man was initiated as a Luciferian, he was taken to one of their meetings and made to kiss a toad on its backside or the mouth. Or sometimes the thing he kissed looked like a duck or a goose and was the size of an oven. Then there came to him a man with black eyes who was pale, emaciated, and icy cold. Possibly he represented the devil or Lord of Death. The initiate kissed him and lost his Catholic faith in that instant. Then everyone sat down to a feast, and a large black cat appeared, emerging from a statue, which was always present. The initiate, the leader of the group, and any other members who were worthy of the honor kissed the cat's backside. The leader said, "What does this teach?" A member answered, "The highest peace." And another added, "And that we must obey." The candles were put out, and there was indiscriminate heterosexual and homo orgy. Afterwards, the candles were relit, and the figure of a man appeared from a dark corner. The upper part of his body shone like the sun, but from the hips down, he was black like the cat. The leader cut off a piece of the initiate's clothing and gave it to the shining man, saying, "Master, I give this to you, which has been given to me." The shining man answered, "You have served me well. You will serve me more and better. I leave to your care what you have given to me." Then he disappeared. So that was the initiate process for the Luciferians, which is obviously of the arcane way. And that's what made them heretics. And they were sent into the tortures of the Inquisition, which we'll get there in a second. Now, this right here, I had to put this up. There's a lot in the volume 3. And what you're looking at here is some of the troubles of the time periods with the Jews. Right here, I wanted to put that up. A Jew is hung in white stone, Swabia, in 1553, along with 2 dogs on the feet. The woodcut comes from the Swiss Chronicle of Johann Stumpf. Right here, you see this? You see the Jew hanging upside down with the 2 dogs underneath him. Now, what they did is they set a fire, too, to make the dogs go crazy and bite the man while he's upside down with his hands tied behind the back. And this was one of the consequences for if a Jew was caught with a Christian prostitute. Okay, Jews could not date Christian women. Okay, on the right-hand side is Jews taking the blood from Christian children for their mystic rites from a pen and ink drawing illuminated in the book of Kabbalah of Abraham the Jew. Okay, now this stuff goes back to like 1300s, 1400s, documented. So a lot of the stuff that's coming out today on the news and the Illuminati and all of that, originally I thought it was just slander. But when I did this medieval research and I saw it in repetition, anything that's repetitious to me is proven itself as fact. Okay. And there it is. They have drawings behind it. This is in their history. So they're pouring all the blood into this big magic pot right here. Okay. And you see the children laying around everywhere that's been drained. And they have specific processes on how they drain them and all types of crazy stuff. It's very detailed information. I don't have that in the literature, but I have ran across it. So this picture right here at the bottom is an auto de fe. And an auto de fe is an auto de faith, a day of faith, which is where they taken the heretics and other individuals who have been charged with maleficia and have confessed of their acts. They were burned at the stake, and all of these religious authorities were there. Okay, so, and this is a painting of it. This is how many people were in attendance. It was the form of entertainment at that time.
Sandra Hinton has her hand up and raised. She got a question.
Go ahead. Sandra, you got to press your mic.
Unmute yourself.
Yeah.
The Waldensian people.
Mm-hmm.
Was that picture taken in their country, or was that picture taken over here?
That picture was taken.
Look like poor white trash over here.
Oh yeah. See, okay. Poor white trash. You want to talk about some ghettos? Put in 1700 Europe ghetto in your computer, and then click on images, or put in 1800, and you'll see some real ghettos. The ghettos and the project housings that we experience today is like 5-star hotel compared to the conditions they were living in. You know, put in early 1900 ghettos, Polish or Austria, they'll show up. There's a lot of pictures. Pictures of ghettos before World War II. Yeah, the conditions they were in were atrocious. And that picture was, I think this picture, yeah. The Waldensians are, yeah, this could have been taken in Italy, but the Waldensians have also been documented to be in Kentucky too.
Oh.
So this picture could have been from either location.
Now, my other question is, were these people also considered Slavs?
What? Slavs? Slavic?
Yeah, Slavic.
Slavic is actually a term that comes from Swabia, which is southern Germany, and we're gonna get into that in a minute because yeah, I'm gonna surprise you with some info on that. So
now my next question, I'm sorry, is when they were killing these babies, were they practicing Babylonian ritual? Was this around that? Well, that was, how did they get to that place?
Okay, well, what you got to understand is this is all going into principalities. So once you understand how real magic works off the basis of principalities, you'll understand why they're using baby blood.
Baby.
Right. Baby blood is the blood of the innocent, the blood of the pure. Right. So in the mind of the sickness, you know, if you want to be healed, the most potent thing you're going to use is baby blood, you know, and that is also part of the reasons Planned Parenthood, and we got so many aborted babies in America right now. I'm gonna tell you right now, when you get down to the details of a lot of the chemicals that are written on your products, we've all had some form of baby shit on us, you know. Unfortunately, it's in your lotions. I mean, they put foreskins from boys in your lotions, especially female lotions. They put you wouldn't believe it. I used to be
a cosmetologist, fam, and I used to work with a lot of the fashion houses and work with the cosmetic houses, and how they would coordinate you know, launching a new skincare system every year. The ingredients that are in skincare and make particularly skincare, anything that deals with youth, anti-aging, that entire industry is made up of stuff that if you
Aborted
really
babies.
knew what ingredients were,
Mm-hmm.
you just have rough skin. You wouldn't be using no damn lotions
Yeah.
and potions and shit.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
would have
There's
20
a
years
history.
of
There's a
ashiness on
history,
us.
and it's still going on today.
Yeah. I just wrote an encyclopedia on the alchemy of women, and I went over all the makeup and all the lotions.
Oh, yeah.
Lipsticks, right. And I went over all of that and what chemicals are in it. And as a matter of fact, when you go to the hospital and you have a child and they make you sign that waiver while you're in labor, is actually the permission slip to use the foreskin for these type of things. And if the baby does die, they could use the placenta, and they can use all the extra that comes out of your body pertaining to the delivery of the child, and send it in to these companies.
When you hear these commercials saying it's loaded with collagen, what the hell do you think they're getting collagen from?
Yeah. So I mean,
where do you think this stuff is coming from?
Oh yeah, we can shake our finger, but I'm telling you right now, the stuff's in your soda.
Are you all right, Miriam? Miriam got that look on her face.
Yeah,
did you see it? I just happened to glimpse over at Miriam. And Miriam is like, you gotta be crazy. Are you serious right now?
Okay, let's go. Before we continue, I want to say another one is lead and the lead poisoning. Yeah. Lead is in, there's a high level of lead concentration in lipsticks and all forms of lip glosses. Mm-hmm. And it's safe to say that a girl using clear lip gloss, starting at the age of 8 to 10, she's plumb insane by the age of 20. Okay, just from the amount of lead that's in lipstick alone.
Yep.
And so we don't really know what we're dealing with. And today's so-called propagandizing of the permission and allowance of women to be insane. And of course, I'm not saying that about the ladies on the panel today, but we do know that there's been some form of push to say, oh, it's okay to be crazy and I'm crazy and this and that. Mm-hmm. And my craziness is supposed to be cute and all of this. No, you're looking at high level lead poisoning. You're looking at high level, baby stuff being used through the chemical, and then the high level estrogen. The estrogen adjusts male children. Hairspray will actually dysfunction a male's phallus. If she's pregnant with a male and she uses hairspray, it won't even allow the hole to be developed in the phallus. And this is where all this transgender stuff is coming from. It's coming from a lot of this stuff, and we don't know it. We're just buying products in the store. But yeah, we can shake a finger at them using baby stuff. But like I stated, when we get down to the details, all of us on this panel, everybody that you know, has come in contact with some form of...
It also shows how they have taken this because this was pre-scientific era. Mm-hmm. So it was the church that was looked upon as the authority. Mm-hmm. Because there were no scientists in a lab somewhere. Mm-hmm. But now, because of all of these rituals, remember the law of thermodynamics, energy cannot be destroyed. So you've got a lot of energy every time you use these products, every time you name some of these products.
How they're named,
Mm-hmm. and releasing the original, the fidelity of the energy. Remember, we talked about the science of memetics, fidelity, fecundity, and longevity. What was the origin? What was the first origin? The fidelity of these products, of the mindset that is installed in the Akashic records. That is installed in the epigenetic genetic memory of us. As a people. So all of them and all of their shit is inside of us. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we couldn't understand this. So that's the other part of it.
So that's where the thing is that we have
Miriam has her hand raised.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Sandra.
Yeah, go ahead, Sandra. Yeah.
That's why they say that there is no one that is innocent, not one.
Yeah, that's why.
Right.
And
Right.
even though it's ignorance
Right.
that we're looking at, oh my God.
Yes. This is where the concept of born in sin comes from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? You're no good at birth, but the children are closer to God, are closer to being coming from the other side. So if I want to be healed, and I'm pre-scientific, I'm not a medical person, but just spiritually looking at it, the child is going to be the purest thing out. Everything else around me is death and decay and debauchery. The only thing that's pure is that baby. So yeah, let's take some babies and boil them up and rub it over my body and do whatever I need to do to be young again and to get healed. This was what pre-scientific dark age and also insanity. Remember, part of what I love about Keenan's work, again, because like he said, it's like a documentary and encyclopedia. It is not one moment in time, it's multiple moments happening at the same time. So it wasn't that they were drunk at one point, they were drunk all of their lives. It wasn't that the children were drinking at a certain point. No, they drank after breastfeeding. It wasn't that they got the lead poisoning later. No, they got the lead poisoning with the alcohol abuse. It wasn't that they got the alcohol abuse and the lead poisoning and then ergotism came on. No, it's all happening at the same time, and it's overlapping in various different countries and geographical locations. So your daily life is insanity, trying to make sense of shit that's insane. And so when you're in this, this is what I want people to understand. When you're in trauma, whatever you're doing to alleviate the trauma makes sense because there's no logic in trauma. How Dr. Edwin Nichols teaches us how you reason to an answer is logic. But if I am out of my mind, if I am, and I don't know I'm out of my mind, I'm trying to escape and alleviate trauma. I'm trying to look better. I'm trying to feel better. I'm trying to live longer. I'm trying to improve my health. I'm trying to improve my ability to get a mate. All of these are things that it's the human condition. And if it makes sense to boil babies, it makes sense to boil babies. And then let's look at, I know, but then let's look at the consciousness of group think. Now, Sandra, you know this as well as Melinda. Group think, your IQ lowers 10 to 12%. Because you're in group think. You're not thinking individually, you're thinking as the group, and you don't want to be ostracized from the group. Now, if you did any research on the work I did with Luann Bresendine, who's a brain expert, that is why hate can be hardwired in the brain. That was the question that I asked her.
Yes, I remember.
People come out of the womb being hating. Yes, they can be preconditioned in the womb, even before the womb, to come out and have a propensity for these heinous acts.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the group. The group does not want to be ostracized. And this is what happened. So you got this one group that's crazy, that's gonna, I forgot the slide, but what was it? They burned the elderly. They I mean, you know, that's we're insane.
I get it. You know,
it's insane on the insane. So the people doing the rituals are insane. The people fighting against the rituals are insane as well. So it's insanity on sanity. It was the first European on European crime.
But meanwhile,
white crime long before. Go ahead, Silver Money.
But meanwhile, the elite of the Catholic Church actually have a plan. See, they're scheming, right?
Say again.
So the elite of the Catholic Church, the higher ups, they actually have a plan. So the masses may be dealing with their insanity, and the elders and higher ups of the Catholic Church are channeling that insanity to their own means.
Here's
But the
how I
very
look at it.
thing that,
And tell me
that
if this makes sense to you, Adira, and tell me if this makes sense to you, Keenan, Melinda, all of you, because you are all, you know, scholars. And so I like to have these conversations. So when I looked up psychopathy versus sociopathy, the difference between a psychopath and a sociopath. Psychopath cannot tell the difference between morality. They can't feel empathy and sympathy. So that, to me, are the elites. The sociopath, however, they too they can feel empathy and sympathy and morality, but they choose not to. So because they're weaker. So that tells me that the elite the psychopath runs and informs the sociopathic behavior of the group. Okay, because the group have to follow the Pope. They have to follow some level of authority. If the authority is psychopathic, they don't give a damn about, look at how they're treating them now. They don't give a shit about life. They are so close to death, it's ridiculous. They are fascinated with death and violence. So the pauper, the regular population, are just engaged with each other sociopathically. Now, the other interesting part of this is Keenan has also shown us that what you are reading throughout the entire 3 volumes is recorded from and by the elite, because poor people don't write their stories and tell history. So if the elite are going through this, you can only imagine what the people were going through, which was worse. Like, we're not living, you know, in quote unquote the White House. We don't have aides, we don't have butlers and maids and people, you know, doing things. So the people who are just the regular people that are trying to work and make a living, and again, no jobs. Everybody was in agriculture or whatever, trying to figure out, and it was called fertile times. So as a result of that, there was really no structure. Everybody was independent with their own thing, and the poverty. He's right. Yes, we live. You know, I have been on welfare. I've been homeless. I've lived in abject poverty. But the abject poverty that we live in today looks like a palace in comparison to what they went through, which is why they don't give a shit about us living in ghettos and creating ghettos for us to live in. Why? Because ghettos are designed so that the elite can eat. The ghetto poverty feeds the rich. That's the whole game. It's always been this way.
Yeah, but ghettos are also designed for you to be traumatized enough to make yourself rich.
Absolutely. But most people, that's absolutely correct. But most people, particularly Black people, the trauma is so severe that some of them just never think their way out. Or if they do think their way out economically, there's a price to pay. I just talked about this earlier with Melinda. We got Jamie Foxx, who's supposed to be rich and healthy and living a quality life, you know, having a stroke. Sinbad having a stroke. Why is it that our brothers and sisters, particularly when our brothers, when they get into their 50s and they're in this lifestyle, they work their way out of the ghetto, look at every athlete, look at every rapper, look at every culture, look at every they're crazy as fuck. Why? Why are they engaged in crazy? Money doesn't make you better. It makes you more of whatever it is.
Because they participate in these rituals just like this.
Well, exactly. Yeah, not only that, but you know, you got a lot of stuff that we're doing today that humans shouldn't be doing at all, like flying from country to country. We shouldn't be 30,000 feet in the air. That's not what humans are designed for. Yeah. So, you know, that's one thing. You know, the consumption of a lot of different alcohols and a lot of different environments and smelling the airs of different environments. In all reality, you're supposed to be adjusted to one region, and that region has a boundary called your continent. You know, you're supposed to be able to walk by foot from coast to coast. That's where we've been at for about 5,000, 10,000 years before we've gotten to this position that we're in now with the dependence on technology. Technology has really enforced a lot of what we call the strokes and also the breaking down of family environments and not being able to be with your family. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So the pathology, if the people who create the technology has pathology, then pathology has to be in the technology. So
oh, well, I mean, that's part of it.
The
Right.
reason I'm doing this big research on AI, the reason that there are biases in AI is because the people who invented the AI has biases. It's cause and effect. It's a projection of pathology into algorithms.
Right. And I look at it like this. It's real
Sorry,
short.
Miriam, I know we've been.
Yeah, we're about to get to Miriam, but I definitely want to say this. Anybody who has a focus on their women isn't involved in the bullshit. So, basically it's just an inadequacy of the maintenance of your woman and your environment, and you're focused into dumbass. You know what I mean? Shit, that's how I look at it. Because I'm not gonna be in those areas. You know what I'm saying? Right. I'm gonna be over here comfortable with my lady. I'm not gonna be in that. But Miriam, let's get to Miriam. Yes, I know you have a question or something. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I came in a little late, but I came in on you discussing. Let me see. I made a note about it. Them kissing the cats on the backside. I wanted to know. Yeah. I wanted to know what that represented, and then I also wanted to know, was the cat itself symbolic to something? Because I know in Egyptian times, Bast, the goddesses. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to know if it kind of tied into something to do with that.
It very well could be. Domestic cats are very interesting. Supposedly they see by energy alone, and they also have a parasite that only can reproduce inside of their guts, and it's called the Taxagandi. It's in my encyclopedia, and this Taxagandi worm actually does transfer through the feces and can transfer by I think it's kiss as well through the mouth, and it is the main source for the whole cat lady syndrome. So we also have to understand, like was discussed in volume 2, that the devil shows up in a lot of different ways. And the cat is one of the witch's main familiars. Okay. So that's not only a cat, but that's also a dog. That could also be a fly. That could also be a gnat. That could also be a rat. That could be a possum. That could be a pale child. There's a lot of different things that fit in the space of the familiar, which is the mysticism of the woman has direct control over the mammal kingdom. And I go over a little bit of that inside the encyclopedia, but basically it's done by the uteri. The uteri is similar in all mammals, and women have a much more direct relationship through the invisible spirituality of the nature of the world, and they can communicate with these beings and make these beings carry out deeds that they may not be able to carry out. So a woman could basically, with the attachment of cats or a dog, they can make a dog or a cat a spy and see what the eyes of a cat or a dog sees when they're traveling about, or make that cat or dog do its work by being in basically they stated it was a demon in the shape of that animal, okay, and that the woman has control over, and that is correlated to the witchcraft arts, and that's what the whole cat thing is about. So I wouldn't, don't keep cats around, don't keep, and in those times you would have been taken to a stake having a cat or a dog or anything of that nature. So yeah.
Your hand is raised.
Go ahead.
Yeah, from my understanding about cats in Egypt, we use them to get rid of the rodents, and they was good for getting rid of the rodents. And from my understanding, with the Dark Ages, when they got rid of the cats, that's when the rats came out to play, because that's when they was getting rid of the riches and stuff, and they was like just putting everything with the witches and all, and then that's when they start killing the cats, the women and all that, and then that's when the rats started to increase, which kind of carry on with the Black Plague. That's what I learned about the cat. I thought we was you keep the cat close to you. Even in the country in Louisiana, they keep cats with them when they hunt. because the cats can see the unseen.
Right.
And if the cats, their hairs raise up, they tail raise up, it's a better defense than a dog.
Right.
You know?
So in volume 2, I go over the rat catcher, and the rat catcher did train cats. And that the situation that you were explaining is correct, but it was in reverse. There was a lot of rats out, and then they brought cats in to get rid of the rats, and then the cats overpopulated, and then they had to burn up cats as well. I forgot what pope it was. I think it was a Pope Leo, but there's many Pope Leos, so you have to look through it. But you did get that story correct. It's just the other way around. The rats were a part of the plague and were en masse. That's part of the reason that was the basis of the story of Pied Piper, was that he could come through and clean up your town with rats by playing a certain tune with the flute. Okay, and because he didn't get payment, he kidnapped all the boys in the city and walked them into a mountain and closed the mountain on them. So, that did occur. The cats are well praised in Egypt. One of the reasons could be is because cats are documented to be serial killers. They're one of the animals that kill for no reason, just to play with the dead body of whatever they kill.
Can I add to that?
Go ahead.
Part of what Yoshi just said, as a result of them killing all of those cats, something happened, and a bunch of the people were killed or died because once they got rid of the cats, there was some kind of disease that took over and killed up all the people. And in through their research or whatever, it said that it was done because they got rid of all the cats.
Well, like I said,
I've heard. Let me ask you this, Keenan. I've heard. My research has shown 3 things. So I had a lady on. This was probably about 10 years ago now. A.P. Brooks, I think was her name, and she had a book called Skin, and there was a chapter in there called The Flea, and So the way I understand it is, it was the fleas and the ticks that carried the plague, and it was on the rats. And so when they got rid of and again, this is very conflated, because which came first, the rats or the cats, right? That's
what we're looking at, right?
So we don't know. The cats could have had the fleas. We don't know.
Right. Right.
But we do know that millions died as a result of one of these things don't belong. Whatever they took out allowed the plague and the fleas to flourish and for it to come in.
Now let's talk about this, because we already went over the plague in volume 2, and I know everybody that's here right now wasn't with us when we did that. Yes. So I did go over the causes of the plague. Fleas were a cause, ticks were a cause, cats were a cause, dead dogs were a cause, witches were a cause, vagabonds and the leprosy was also considered to be a cause. The highwaymen, which were criminals that came through and poisoned the whales, were considered to be a cause. Jews poisoned the whales, the highwaymen poisoned the whales, so when the city died, they would be able to steal everything from all the homes, okay? So Jews were considered to poison the whales because they were at war with the Christians, okay? Bodies being thrown over the city walls by Genghis Khan's grandson were considered to be a cause of the plague. There's so many different causes. We don't know what the exact cause was, because when we go through what the plague was, plagues were in and out and going on mysteriously and sporadically through all of the different countries,
right,
for a span of 400 years.
Right.
Okay.
You know how COVID, and even with Ebola, you ever heard in the news how they say it jumped?
Right, and that's another thing. Right, and that's
they couldn't explain how it got from one place to another place, because there was no energy, information, no people in transference. The same thing happened for those 400 years. So they couldn't figure out what the fuck was going on.
Right, and that jumping actually created the caricature that we know of today as death, that wears the monk cloth and has the scythe. And those times it was a different image of a skeleton with its guts disemboweled and him carrying the sheet. Okay, the sheet that you're wrapped in when you're born and the sheet that you're wrapped in when you die. You see what I'm saying? And the reason why they had to create a caricature behind it is because of this jumping. It jumped from person to person, city to city, from house to house. It was uncontrollable and had a mind of its own. Okay.
I was working to wipe these people out. Go ahead.
Right. So, you know, I got a lot to get through and I got some surprises for y'all. So let's go through this. Right. Okay. On arriving in the community, Torquemada, to remember Torquemada is the great inquisitor, okay? He was Inquisitor General for the Spanish Inquisition, would invite the populace to report anyone suspected of being a heretic. Suspects could be identified if there was no smoke rising from their chimneys on a Saturday, thus implying that they were observing the Jewish Sabbath. If they eat meat in Lent, gave a party before leaving on a long journey, the Jewish Ruga, changed their sheets or underwear on a Saturday. If you changed your drawers, you were a heretic and were going to the stake. Okay. Now,
damn, that's
if you cut the fat off the meat.
Is that what the term "I love your dirty drawers" comes?
Yeah, I love your dirty drawers. That's original. Do you understand? Hundreds of years in that statement. No, I'm just fucking with you. Okay, so cut the fat off the meat, or if any of their relations, when dying, had turned their faces to the wall. Informers were reminded that they were received 1/3 of the accused estates. The accused, remember, listen to that. Informers were reminded that they received 1/3 of the accused estate. Okay, so those who were taken to the stake, those who were considered, you know, guilty of maleficia in any of its forms, were basically all of their goods and all of their property was divided up in between the municipality, the city, the church, because this is the church side, but on the municipality side, it would just be the city because they had the same litigation. So on the church's side, it would be divided up in between the church, the executioner who carried out the consequence, and also the person who accused them of their acts. Okay. Now, the accused were tortured until they confessed and gave the names of their heretics. It was admitted that this method involved the danger of convicting a few innocent people, but as Friar Francesco Pegna, a noted inquisitor, justly condemned that he should not complain of the sentence, which was founded on sufficient proof, and we cannot judge on what is hidden. He should receive the sentence with resignation and rejoice in dying for the truth. You see how that word resignation right there? We're still using that same word today when you resign from a job, right? Okay. Torquemada was not a sadist. He seldom watched the torturing of his victims and attended the auto de fe only as a matter of duty. He seems to have been dedicated to one driving passion, the extermination of the Jews and Moors. He cared little about witches or other forms of heresy. Okay, so Jews and Moors is what he was going after. A witch hunt is a search for people labeled witches or evidence of witchcraft, often involving moral panic or mass hysteria. The classical period of witch hunts in Europe and North America falls into the early modern period of about 1450 to 1750, spanning the upheavals of the Reformation and the 30 Years' War, resulting in an estimated 35,000 to 100,000 executions. The last executions of people convicted as witches in Europe took place in the 18th century. In the Kingdom of Great Britain, witchcraft ceased to be an act punishable by law with the Witchcraft Act of 1735. In Germany, sorcery remained punishable by law until the late 18th century. Even during the great European witch hunt of the 16th and 17th centuries, when under torture, witches gasped out allegations against anyone whose name came to mind, public figures, usually of women witches, far exceeded that of men. In the Swiss canton of Lucerne, between about 1450 and 1550, for example, 32 witches were accused, and only one of them was a man. While in the English county of Essex, between 1560 and 1680, when 291 witches were tried, only 23 were men, 11 of whom were closely connected with a woman. The women involved in such cases were usually married women, or widows aged between 50 and 70, old for the time, sharp-tongued, ugly, very often following the profession of village midwife, a calling that naturally attracted suspicion at a time of high infant mortality, especially since witches were known to need a regular supply of unbaptized babies for their banquets. Okay. Now, Ireland, 90% of the witches that were burned at stake in Ireland were males. Okay. Let me throw that in there. And also, what else here? What else we throw? Yeah, that's basically what was going on.
Are you also able to see, family, the hatred for European women, the hatred for women?
Yeah, there's also another layer that's going on here. And one of these layers is they were making the woman's psyche submit to the male and not to the uteri. The uteri can talk, okay, and gives a lot of backward activity towards the woman. Okay, so they were breaking that cord of fear. Okay, based upon what you see in the Garden of Eden story. Okay, so but all of that's explained in the Encyclopedia on the Alchemy of Women. I don't want to go into all of that right now, but I definitely have to show you that, because right after these 300 years of burning at the stake, they put their women through etiquette schools and etiquette classes. They definitely enforced intelligence into their women. When you want to look at the situation culturally, European women, and following right after them, Chinese culture, are the only cultures on this planet that have thoroughly educated their women, and not in a subjugated format, but understanding the balances of male and female, and what their assistance position is, and what the male's provision position is. And if the female doesn't play that position of, sustenance when it comes to the household, the male is not in the strength position to provide. And that is a part of the problems that we're seeing today, that they don't have. They'll paint it on TV that they have it, but there's no way you can maintain government to the extent that they have, maintain military, maintain all these corporations with combative women. It doesn't work like that, So what they show you that their culture is not how they operate. So I have to explain this last night to somebody. They see you dancing and they see you doing the rap, and they get involved and do that with you because that's what you're doing. That's your communication line. That does not mean that's how they operate when they go home. It's a completely different situation. And Native people, we love it when somebody comes over and does what we do. You're taking on our culture line. And in the essence of us loving the fact that somebody's coming to our culture, we're blinded to the fact of what this motherfucker come from and what he doing.
Exactly.
So
you see all those white people marching over George Floyd, and you're sitting there like, oh, white people love us. They
right, exactly. And you don't know why they're there.
Dumbass.
You don't know why they're there. You don't know, their grandfather is FBI, CIA operative, social engineering,
Grand Poopa, KKK.
Yeah, all of this shit, and you don't even know it because they're playing your language, and now you dance around the barbecue because they over here with you. Right. Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it, So right here is
I guess I'm feeling some type of way just hearing all of this. It's okay. I don't know what it is.
What are you feeling? What's going on?
It is like my heart is just aching just to know this right here.
Why is it aching? The heart is important here. We're talking about Catholicism, the flaming of the heart. What's going on?
To be attached to something like that. All of us in some way could be attached to a group of people like this. Look, you get a tan in the summertime to remove the white. out of my bloodline. And I guess this is just like, it's just,
You'll never be able to remove it. You speak English. I mean,
that I know.
Right. So, I mean, besides that, I mean, what are we going to do? Run to Islam? Islam got many heads on their swords too. You know,
Oh no, I'm not running to. No.
You know what I'm saying? There's nowhere you're going to go where there wasn't slaughter justified by their government at that time. Whether that's ancient Egypt, whether that's Moors, whether that's Islam, slaughtering is what humans do. But that's also what alligators do. You see, that's also what, you know, wild wolves do. You see, they do it to eat. That's what eagles do. Watch the eagle. Eagles will swoop down and pick up a goat and fly it up 50, 60 feet in the air and throw its body against the mountain. And then come down and pick and eat because he has to feed towards its babies. He has to give meat to the babies in order for them to eat. So slaughtering, debauchery, morbidity is a part of existence. And when our women understand this and can swallow that pill, there is no perfection of lilies and dandelions everywhere. You will be able to create Debos that will be serious about your protection.
Marion has her hand up.
Go ahead.
I kind of wanted to go back to the comments around the treatment of women. But I wanted to comment on Sandra and how she's feeling right now. And just saying that my awakening started like right before the COVID thing, 2019, like, you know, around that time. And so I've learned a lot of this, like in a, just like a compacted time. My way of coping is to, sometimes you have to just disconnect from everything. And I revert back to watching like shows that I watched coming up. Like I would watch the Cosby Show, like the series, to kind of just break away from it for a while. And for me, the Cosby Show was kind of nostalgic. It represented a time when I thought there was security around me or peace because you're at home with your family. It was a time when the family came together, you know, some normalcy. Familiarity around you, you know, just something that, so sometimes you gotta back away. And I know that Rev said that this is gonna be so intense that it can actually mess with your mental psyche, right? And what I have to do, because like what I'm hearing tonight, you know, it's staggering what I'm hearing tonight. So what I know that I'm gonna have to do is you have to guard your mind. You know, we're a different kind of people. We have to guard our minds, period. So there's going to be a time you're going to have to come up with a way to break away from it all, in your own way, kind of slip away in your own way for a little while and then come back into it when you're ready.
Let me say this, you're absolutely right, Miriam, but one of the things I've also learned from Keenan, and also what we're teaching and going through in the spells webinar series, the fact that you are being exposed to this is neutralizing you.
Yeah.
The very fact that you are learning this stuff puts you, it's like a crazy cloak of safety, because you are learning something that most people are victims of. You're not victims of this anymore. You're victorious of it because you have the information, you have the knowledge, but you also have an overstanding and an understanding of it that is deeper than just, you know, the surface level of a history lesson.
Right.
So part of what you experience, part of what Sandra is experiencing in the medical community is known as medical syndrome or secondary syndrome. You start coming, and Keenan went through it as well. You start to come down with various different symptoms of the energies of which you're studying. Because those energies can't be destroyed. You're tapping into them, but it's the way in which you're tapping into it. So the way that Keenan brought this is that he started out with the worst and he ends with the best, but even the best is there's some crazy stuff in it, but it's making you immune to it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Let me at a PhD level now.
Right. Let me put it like this. There's a video of me delivering my second son on YouTube. Okay. And of course, it wasn't me delivering it. It was the woman delivering, but it was at-home delivery. Okay. I had to get the pool ready and all of that. Her water broke. The tub was filled with blood. I had to step inside that blood in order to catch my son, who's here today in the other room. You see, he's a straight A student too. While I throw that out there, but that's a part of it. You know, if I wasn't conditioned or prepared mentally for the morbidness of that blood, as the majority of the males that you probably know wouldn't even want to walk into a delivery room in a hospital. You see, I had to set up a camera. I had to fill up this pool with water in the living room. I had to step inside this blood and catch my son, cut the umbilical cord, put the baby in her hands, watch the placenta right there. The whole process, which is a morbid act, is from what we consider today, because it's not a normalcy for you to deliver a child inside your living room. So understand that through morbidness, through me hanging upside down a deer and gutting it, I can get a carpet. I can make shoes and moccasins out of its skin. I can have food for my family for the next month. We will have good venison. You understand? That's what it is. So you have to accept morbidity. It's a part of existence. When you do that, you know, your intelligence will be of what it was in the ancient world, because that's what we were dealing with daily. There wasn't a person to call and rely on. There was no 911.
What you're saying, Keenan, is absolutely fact, because we perfected baby delivering, we perfected eating, we perfected death in the terms of how we had to eat, how we had to kill an animal, and what have you. So we did all of these things in order to master the world and create civilization. We had to master these things. We just did it in a different mindset because of our axiology.
This right here is talking about execution, which is something that's completely different than killing animals and for their skin and
or usage.
You're right.
If I understand correctly.
And that all of this
fun and pleasure as opposed to killing for a reason. So they kill animals and hunt animals just because of out of love to do it. Part of that fascinating violence. Is that correct, Keenan?
Yeah, right. But I want Sandra to go ahead and finish what she was saying. Go ahead.
So, and that is what's the most disturbing, is the whole, all of this is not about psychological survival. It's about killing and execution of people just from hearsay.
Oh, well, I mean, when we all grew up with Zulu, with Shaka Zulu on TV, right?
Yeah.
And
I didn't like that.
Well, I mean,
I didn't like the portrayal of how they, so I don't know if it was true or not. So I only like the ending part when they got around each other, then they started slaughtering with that. That's it.
Well, the witch doctor,
Sandra,
I don't know if that's true about how he was. You see, that portrayal.
Today, though, Sandra, when a white woman calls the police on a black man and gets him killed, isn't that the same shit?
I mean,
same thing. What happened to Jonathan? I forgot his last name. Majors. Jonathan Majors was messing with a white chick. The white chick called. He said he didn't want to do something with her. She got upset, called the police on him, made up a fathom that she was beaten. He was being beaten or whatever. Now the guy, his agent dropped him. His endorsements have dropped. It's the same level of violence. It's the same thing.
There was a little black boy who knocked on the wrong door and just got shot 2 times in the head by some white man. And his GoFundMe is at 2.5 million right now. Morbidity is going to happen. War is going to happen. Humans have been at war with each other since the beginning of time. We're going to stab each other. We're going to shoot each other. And that's just what occurs. You have to understand. Let's look at it astrologically. Okay. When you look at the star Algol, when the situation of Rwanda happened underneath the star Al Gore. You know, there's a lot of different, the Spanish flu that occurred in Tennessee during the 1920s. Also, it was called the Spanish flu / yellow fever, also occurred underneath the Al Gore star. So basically what I'm showing you is that there are people born for the dark side.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are people born with the desire to wear your skin.
Yes.
Now, if that person encounters you and I'm standing next to you, do you want me to be in a position of non-belief that other humans could do this?
No.
Right, because what our education status of today, public education, has not informed us
Sorry, Miriam,
to the extremes of what other humans could do. You
Yes.
see what I'm saying? And history will, and that's what is being taught today. Yes, history is teaching you that some random nurse inside the hospital can take your baby and swap it out with another baby, can take your baby and send it to the orphanage, can take your baby and send it to the Planned Parenthood and come back and tell you that your baby didn't make it through the vaccination. Okay, this does happen. So you need to know the extremities of what other humans are capable of. Now, it does limit, it can mess with your mind and limit your communication with other people, but you must progress and you must gain more security. And to gain more security, guess what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to be werewolf ferocious. Okay. And that's what we saw in the Wolf of Wall Street. They were werewolf ferocious and now they're on private jets. Okay, so we have to be in the same mentality for our security line to be a lot more stronger. So these type of situations won't occur to us because we know that humans are capable of making them happen. And guess what? We don't have time to find out their reasoning. Okay.
We have so many people that's in disbelief. And I think that's probably what is just bothering me is just the whole idea. Oh, well, we got all these people out here in disbelief. They don't really think that life operates that way. You know, that we have cruel people out here purposely.
Those people are called?
They don't understand. You know.
Do you know what those people are called?
Pardon?
Victims.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say what?
Called victims.
They're called, your naiveness is synonymous to your status of being victimized.
Absolutely.
Okay. And it'd be better off for you to be the suspect with the keys of manipulation in order to gain. And that's just the rules and regulations of nature. You know, look at camouflage skills of the lizard. Look at the praying mantis. Do you know how many different praying mantis? There's praying mantis that look like flowers. There's frogs that change their colors. It's you know, these are the laws of nature. Nature devours nature. Whether you want to go inside the water realm, sharks are eating schools of fish at a time. Okay. Whether you want to go into the air realm, there's the birds are fighting. Crows and magdaws don't like each other. You know, that's just what it is. You know, we have Crips and Bloods. You know, we have police and sheriffs that go to war with each other. Police and firemen in the same city didn't like each other when the towers went down in September 11th. So we have a large amount of war. Versus will always be here. And, you know, regardless if we like it or not, regardless of the naivety, the naiveness to it, we have to understand that as the normalcy. So we will always have our shields on. You know, and I'm going to give it to Miriam. She got her hand up, and then we got to get back to this.
Okay, yeah. We were talking about the way that the women are treated, them preferring men over women sexually. And it brought my attention to the House of Cards, that series. I started watching it for, I think I
just watched the last episode last week.
I can't even go all the way through because it's just so morbid to me.
That is a now you talk about psychopathy?
Yes.
Frank Underwood and Claire Underwood. I
brought it up.
Epitome of this. See, when you go through this work, Miriam, particularly after Kicked Out of Heaven, you go back, like I've watched House of Cards at least three times. This last time, after watching and going through all of this level of history, it is a completely different. I see stuff that I could not see before. I'm like, oh.
But the thing is, they're showing us. They're showing it to us.
They're showing it.
Not paying attention.
Who they are.
Yeah, we're not paying attention.
Billions is another one. I don't know if you saw that show.
Yes, yes, and that's another one. Yes, absolutely. They're showing it to us.
Mhm.
They don't prefer women.
Yep.
They prefer men. They dress up like women. That's a
Yes.
part of their ritual for
Yes.
their societies, their secret societies.
Yes.
That's what they practice. And
Right.
and now that I'm hearing this, what you're saying, I'm going to, this dates back from the beginning with them.
Right. Right. Yeah, it just
Yeah.
didn't start out this way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to add.
This is a progression. Very
I've never seen the House of Cards. I don't dress as a woman. I'm sorry. I don't, y'all lost me there. I'm not, I'm blah blah. You know, I don't watch TV at all. I don't watch a show. I mean, I just watched the Peaky Blinders, which were some medieval gangsters. I like that show. That was pretty cool, but it wasn't none of that going on. But if you do go back and watch Interview with the Vampire, it'll be completely different. There's a lot of films that if you go back and watch that are medieval themed, that you'll see a completely different show, because now you can hear every word. Now
go back and watch Underworld.
Yeah, Underworld is another one, or
Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, Bram Stoker. There you go. Frankenstein. You know,
Yes.
a lot of those things. Which Frankenstein, that word alone means French Jew. Frank is France, and then Stein is Jew. So you know exactly. So they'll slip stuff because it's not our language.
Right.
We're just when you really understand the native and what we're doing, we're going to these movies like cavemen excited about firecrackers.
Yes.
And that's all we're doing.
Very
We
well
don't
said.
comprehend the wordplay. We don't comprehend the theme. We don't comprehend the theatrics, because we don't comprehend the Shakespearean intent and influence that is coming through these films, you know, because we're not educated through their socialism. Okay. And that's what we're doing here. So let me get to it, because we're now on to the Moorish side of things. This is the Pappenheimers. The Pappenheimers have a possibility to be the root of the Oppenheimers, which was one of the Illuminati families. One thing that was going on during this time period that you'll also see in early America was a change of names by maybe one or two letters. And these one or two letters and changing in names would draft the whole power system of what that name was into a different family, and it could be a different race. Like was stated in the last slide, there was a lot of transfer of funds, and the proceeds of the accused would go to the state, okay, or go to the executioner. So that may also be the case with the Pappenheimers, who were located in southern Germany. And southern Germany is where the Swabian Slavics were. You hear me, Sandra? So Slavic is actually a term to identify Moors in old Europe. Yeah. So they transferred that word for slavery into America. Okay. When black people were already being called Slavic in this realm, and they were considered vagabonds. They were considered, so that's what the documents state. We don't necessarily know the truth. There could be great empire that they were living on, but as it was written, these individuals, the Pappenheimers, were executed on witchcraft. Okay, so during the witchcraft trials, this is one of the cases where a Moorish family was deleted, and we could see because this is their coat of arms right here, okay, with a Moorish head on it. So here we go. The Pappenheimer case centered around a family who were tried and executed for witchcraft in 1600 in Munich, Bavaria, Germany. The family were executed along with accomplices. They were forced to name under torture after a show trial as scapegoats for a number of unsolved crimes committed years back in a display of extreme torture intended to deter the public from crime. The witch trial resulted in the death of 12 people, 4 of the Pappenheimer family, and 2 of their accused accomplices in the first trial, followed by the remaining member of the family and 5 other accomplices in the second trial. The trial was one of the most well-publicized witch trials in German history. Now, I don't want to go into the details on how they were tortured because it is sickening, you know, what they did to them, but it's well documented. So let's keep going here. All right. This is Prester John. Okay. Prester John is where you have the word pedestrian came from. Okay, let's read a little bit about him. Prester John is a legendary Christian patriarch and king, popular in European chronicles and tradition from the 12th through the 17th centuries. He was said to rule over an Nestorian, that's Church of the East, Christian nation, lost amid the Muslims and pagans of the Orient, in which the patriarch of the St. Thomas Christians resided. The accounts are varied collections of medieval popular fantasy depicting Prester John as a descendant of the three Magi, ruling a kingdom of riches, marvels, and strange creatures. At first, Prester John was imagined to reside in India. Tales of the Nestorian Christians' evangelistic success there and of Thomas the Apostle's subcontinental travels, as documented in works like the Acts of Thomas, probably provided the first seeds of the legend. After the coming of the Mongols to the Western world, accounts placed the king in Central Asia, and eventually Portuguese explorers convinced themselves that they have found him in Ethiopia. So, as you can see, this is definitely a black man with black features, as it is stated. He is a descendant of the three Magi. Two of the Magi were black, as we went over in the first show, right? So, yeah. Prester John had been considered the ruler of India since the legend's beginnings, but India was a vague concept to the Europeans. Writers often spoke of the three Indias and lacking any real knowledge of the Indian Ocean. They sometimes considered Ethiopia one of the three. Westerners knew that Ethiopia was a powerful Christian nation, but contact had been sporadic since the rise of Islam. No Prester John was to be found in Asia, so European imagination moved him around the blurry frontiers of India until it found an appropriately powerful kingdom for him in Ethiopia. Evidence has suggested that locating Prester John's kingdom in Ethiopia entered the collective consciousness around 1250. Marco Polo had discussed Ethiopia as a magnificent Christian land, and Orthodox Christians had a legend that the nation would one day rise up and invade Arabia. But they did not place Prester John there. Then in 1306, 30 Ethiopian ambassadors from Emperor Wadem Arad came to Europe, and Prester John was mentioned as the patriarch of their church in a record of their visit. Another description of an African Prester John is in the Mirabilia Descripta of Dominican missionary Jordanus around 1329. In discussing the Third India, Jordanus records a number of fanciful stories about the land and its king, whom he says Europeans call Prester John. Now, there's a little mythos going on here with this whole India connection. When you look up Indo-European roots of the English words, you'll definitely see that they have an in-depth understanding of Indian operation. What that connection is, I truly can't tell you, but I will tell you this. The majority of the rituals that you see Europeans conduct, and also a large span of the English language, comes directly out of India, you know. And Prester John was definitely of Ethiopia. Ethiopia does have its own saints as well. They have a large realm of saints, and they have a very in-depth Coptic Christian understanding, okay, which is different. This is Saint Maurice, which is different than Catholicism by a tad. So this is Saint Maurice, who is in Germany and held up by Germany. He has his own military order. He has the second oldest military order in Catholicism overall. So let's go over a little bit of who he is, okay? He's well respected, and I'm about to show you how in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of modern day people that are connected to his order. Saint Maurice was an Egyptian military leader who headed the legendary Theban Legion of Rome in the 3rd century and is one of the favorite and most widely venerated saints of that martyred group. According to the hagiographical material, Maurice was an Egyptian born in AD 250 in Thebes, an ancient city in Upper Egypt that was the capital of the New Kingdom of Egypt in 1575 and 1069 BC. He was brought up in the region of Thebes, okay? Maurice became a soldier in the Roman army. He rose through the ranks until he became the commander of the Theban Legion, thus leading approximately 1,000 men. He was an acknowledged Christian at a time when early Christianity was considered to be a threat to the Roman Empire. In the year 961 of the Incarnation and in the 25th year of his reign, in the presence of all of the nobility, on the vigil of Christmas, the body of Saint Maurice was conveyed to him at Regensburg, along with the bodies of some of the saints' companions and portions of other saints. Having been sent to Magdeburg, these relics were received with great honor by a gathering of the entire populace of the city and of their fellow countrymen. They are still venerated there to the salvation of the homeland. Maurice was also the patron saint of a Catholic parish and church in the 9th Ward of New Orleans, and including part of the town of Arabi in St. Bernard Parish. The church was constructed in 1856, but was devastated by the winds and floods waters of Hurricane Katrina on 29th of August of 2005. Right now, that church is an art gallery and a museum that was purchased in 2014. So St. Maurice is the patron saint of a Catholic parish and church in the 9th Ward of New Orleans. And who brought us the 9th Ward? Who was yelling the 9th Ward? No Limit Soldiers, Master P. All right. So St. Maurice became a patron saint of the German Holy Roman Emperors. St. Maurice is also the patron saint of the Brotherhood of Blackheads, a historical military order of unmarried merchants in present-day Estonia and Latvia. His patrons are a banner, a soldier being executed with other soldiers, a knight, sub-Saharan African in full armor, bearing a standard and a palm, knight in armor with a red cross on his breast, and which is the badge of the order of Saints Maurice and Lazarus. Lazarus is named in the Bible to be the one sick with leprosy. Okay, so we'll go over a little bit of that here in a second. Should I read this? Yeah, I got time. Saint Columba of Cordoba, the great center of Eastern Jewry in Arabic Spain, was a nun beheaded by the Moors in 853. Her feast day, 17th September, coincides with that of Saint Hildegard of Bingen, the Sibyl of the Rhine, who corresponded at length with Saint Bernard. The following day belongs to Saint Thomas of Villanova, who curiously has a second feast on the 22nd of September. That is also the feast of Saint Maurice, who has his individual feast on the 21st of July, the day before Mary Magdalene. Now, let me stop right here. You have to understand that there was Catholic Moors, and then there was, or Christian Moors, and then there was Islam Moors. Islam Moors were very brutal, just like a lot of the Islamic activity that you may see today in the Middle East. And their philosophies, they're still in early stages of what Catholicism was, with the schisms and developing different groups based off of different philosophies or logics that they created as their mission statement for their group. So a lot of these different groups, they go on their crusades to kill. And you have to also understand that the power of crusades is to have basically human blood dedicated to your God. And the more human blood dedicated to your God, the more powerful your God will be revered and feared. And that's truly how it works. So you have to understand whether we're talking about baby blood, criminal blood, innocent blood, human blood is what makes things alive. And that's also the human sacrifice ritual things that you can see of slavery. Okay. And what happened with America. It is blood that has to be laid first in order for growth to occur. Okay. And that's just deep levels of alchemical science that a lot of people don't want to, that people aren't associated with, and it even goes in for buildings or bridges. People die during the course of a bridge being constructed, or during the course of a building. That blood and that whole spiritual essence of that human is like a fruit dedicated to the essence and the liveliness of the building. Okay. Which makes humans attracted to the building and also makes humans revere it. This is also the same with highways. There's a lot of accidents that go on the highway, or don't go down Route 66, or don't go down this way. There's always accidents there because of the energy from the human. Okay, so we'll start again right here. That is also the feast of Saint Maurice, who has his individual feast on the 21st of July, the day before the Magdalene, and his companions, including Ursu the bear and Victor. Maurice, a Manichaean from Egypt, held the spear of Longinus until his dying breath to keep it from the Emperor Maximian. The spear of destiny in the masculine complement to the Holy Grail. So you see that? The spear of destiny is the masculine side to the feminine side of the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail is what? A cup, right? You see that? And then the spear in the cup, okay? So following Maurice's example, 6,666 legionnaires died with him without offering resistance. Thomas of Villeneuve, with whose sisters the Black Virgin of Paris resides, cares especially for lost children and was bishop of the Grail city of Valencia. His views on the encounter of the Magdalene with the risen Christ are identical to those of Saint Bernard. He shares his feast with Saint Methodius of Tyre, city of King Hiram, master mason of the temple, or of Olympus, abode of the gods, who wrote a hymn to Christ as bridegroom of the church. 19th of September sees the feast of Saint Jarius of the famous liquefying holy blood once preserved at Mount Vergine, which is the pride of Naples and fief of the Anjou dynasty. Let me see here. Yeah, there's nothing more about Saint Maurice. So that's going over the correlations of his feast day. Okay, so let's go to the next guy. Yoshi.
Yeah, with the blood, I know they do the human blood, but I know that I was taught by the ancient Africans that if I want to make my altar alive or bring life to something, I use animal blood. And do you think there's any kind of relation with putting the blood on the wall, on the doors, in correlation with when they get the bottles and they hit the bottles on like the boats and stuff, wherever they do stuff, they'll like pour it's almost like they doing libations as well when they trying to like bless the ship or whatever.
Right, blessing the ship is champagne, and champagne is the lady, and ladies are happy with wine. That's the only thing I could say with that. Ladies are happy with the wine, it eases the environment. You dig what I'm saying? So right. Besides that, when it comes to animal, and I'm pretty sure you're referring to voodoo, they usually use what? Goats?
Yeah, goat or chicken.
Right. Goats have a high characteristic relation to humans, okay, not only with the sounds that they use, and then also the lecherous sexual acts of the male goat is high energy. So that's part of the reason why they use goat. Also, the symbol of Capricorn is where human souls leave when they come out of this. When you die, your soul leaves out through this galaxy through the sign of Capricorn. So that's why. Those are a couple of the reasons why goats are utilized in that form, but their throat structure is also similar to humans with the sounds that they make, and they do exude a character that is more pronounced than what you would see with tigers or a group of lions or a group of, you see what I'm saying? And each animal, and then goats are readily available to humans as well, more so than what a lion is. Even though a lion or a tiger or a bear, they do have different power essences. Remember, we're basing everything off of principality, but there will never be an animal on this planet that has a superiority over a human. So human sacrifice is top form of magic, period. And you see that every time you see a cop murder, the insignias that he's wearing is correlated towards certain gods and whatnot. They don't know that, but that's what's really going on. You see that in a lot of different styles and a lot of different situations. Like I said, a worker will die during the course of a building being built and things of that. It's to make it alive, bro. So yeah.
Bet. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right. So right here you have William Tyndale. also considered to be a Moor or of Negro ethnicity. Okay. And his essence in being is because of this. Let me go down to his story real quick. Okay. A copy of Tyndale's The Obedience of a Christian Man fell into the hands of Henry VIII, providing the king with the rationale to break the church in England from the Roman Catholic Church in 1534. In 1535, Tyndale was arrested and jailed in the castle of Vilford, outside of Brussels, for over a year. In 1536, he was convicted of heresy and executed by strangulation, after which his body was burnt at the stake. His dying prayer was that the King of England's eyes would be opened. This seemed to find its fulfillment just in 2 years later with Henry's authorization of the Great Bible for the Church of England, which was largely Tyndale's own work, missing sections supplemented with translations by Miles Coverdale. Hence, the Tyndale Bible, as it was known, continued to play a key role in spreading Reformation ideas across the English-speaking world and eventually to the British Empire. He was the first one to transfer the Bible from Latin into English, and he was hung for it, basically, and his body burned at the stake. In 1611, the 54 scholars who produced the King James Bible drew significantly from Tyndale, as well as from translations that descended from his. One estimate suggests that the New Testament in the King James Version is 83% Tyndale's and the Old Testament 76%. His translation of the Bible was the first to be printed in English and became a model for subsequent English translations. In 2002, Tyndale was placed at number 26 in the BBC's poll of the greatest Britons. Okay. Okay. So let's see what else we got here. Okay, this is Chevalier de Saint Georges. That's all French. Joseph Boulogne. He is the guy that the movie is coming out this Friday about, and I want y'all to go check it out. It looks hot. It looks real good. It's Chevalier. This word right here is the name of the movie. Okay. Oh, we're going too far ahead here. Let me go here. Okay, right here. So he's a Moor. Obviously, anybody of that time period, you can dub as a Moor, Black Moor. As a matter of fact, I've gone so far into this Moorish thing. The word Schwarzenegger is extremely a Moorish word. Swartz and Nager put together. Okay, Swartz is a Moorish word. Nager is a Moorish word. Douglas is a Moorish word. There's a lot of Moorish words that we didn't know about that are in our everyday usage. So I'm going to be bringing that forth in this next work that Brother Philip has requested I do, and I'm beating myself up to do it. So, but yes, this is one of the greats of the time period. Let's talk about who he is real quick before you go see the movie. So, Joseph Boulogne Chevalier de Saint Georges that's how the French speak. So, was a French Creole, a champion fencer, a virtuoso violinist and composer, and as a free man of color conducting leading orchestras in Paris. During the French Revolution, he volunteered in the war of the First Coalition against Austria and headed a regiment, the American Cavalry Legion. In 1796, he left for Saint Domingue. Then in full revolt and attacked by British troops, within a few months, he returned to France and spent the remainder of his colorful life devoted to his violin. Saint Georges was born in the then French colony of Guadeloupe, the son of wealthy married planter Georges de Boulogne Saint Georges and an enslaved Senegalese African woman named Nanan. At the age of 7, he was taken to France, and at the age of 13, educated at a private academy where he studied horse riding, fencing, and dancing. At 15, he beat the strongest fencer and appointed gendarme de la garde by King Louis XVI. Today, Chevalier de Saint Georges is remembered as the earliest European musician composer of African descent to receive widespread critical acclaim. He published numerous string quartets, sonatas, and 2 symphonies. In addition to his many violin concertos, St. George's also composed several stage works, opera comique. Okay? Comique, or whatever, you know. Is my French okay? So yeah, let me just keep going here. All right. Oh, come on, go down. This is, yeah. And this, last but not least, is Alessandro de' Medici, of the Medici family that turned into a Pope family later on. In the 1500s, he was nicknamed Il Moro, as you see right here, due to his dark complexion, Duke of Penny, and the first Duke of the Florentine Republic was ruler of Florence from 1530 to his death in 1537. The first Medici to rule Florence as a hereditary monarch, Alessandro was also the last Medici from the senior line of the family to lead the city. Okay, so now the last two, Alexandre de' Medici and St. George's here, are not in the 3rd volume. Tyndale and everybody else is. The details that I gave about St. Maurice are also not in the 3rd volume, but when I turn these into hard copy, they all will be. So I got a little present for you here. Let me see what we got here. Y'all want to see a real Moor? You want to see a modern day Moor? Come on, I need to hear some. Y'all ready? Okay.
Show it to us. Come on.
Okay. Okay. I want you ladies to have your napkins ready for this, because you might drop a tear, okay, for this. So this is phenomenal what I'm about to show you. This is called concentration and study and love of your children and what they can be. Okay. Even though many of us have to sacrifice for their well-being, if you can put down this level of etiquette and level of study, do so. This is very talented. So I want y'all to peep this real quick. Okay. Let me make this full screen. You ready?
You have to share sound when you share the screen, brother. On Zoom, you got to share the sound, otherwise we can't hear it.
How am I sharing the sound? Y'all don't hear that?
Unshare, stop share.
Okay. I think I got it now.
And then
Can
go
you hear?
and at the bottom you'll see there's 2 links. One is share sound.
Where does it say share sound be? Okay.
You got to stop sharing.
Okay, I got it.
Reshare.
Okay, I got it. Reshare it now. Okay, hold on. Let me see here. Share sound. Okay. Can you hear?
No, you didn't.
No.
You didn't.
You have to
gotta
stop
completely
sharing the screen first.
Hold on. I'll stop you from sharing. Wait a minute. Let's see. Okay, now. All right, now go back in. Okay, let's see. Now, when you go back in, did you, before you chose did you choose to share sound?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I chose share sound. So play
All right,
now.
let's try it now.
Okay.
Oh, we got it now.
Got it now. You look on those white people on those European faces. They're connecting this. You see that?
Come on, be quiet, quiet.
Yeah. Let's hear him, please. Mm.
Yeah. So, okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
I went to bed every night listening to my dad play Scott Joplin and Mozart and Bach.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that just showed up on my TikTok feed because the Matrix knows. And I definitely wanted to present that to you today so you understand what Moors were doing. That is definitely the art level. That is called conquering. You can also call it taking our arts back or reproducing, whatever you want to call it. You best believe individuals like I just showed you, Chevalier de Saint de Georges, was in this league right here. And there's many others that are nameless that we don't know of that you definitely felt through his vocal tone. But I wanted for Reverend Shock to go ahead and say what you was saying. I didn't mean to do that.
No, I said it. That was amazing. I was looking at the faces of those Europeans, and it was as if they were being transferred back in time. And they were not seeing this little boy anymore. It was something else. That sound can, because again, frequency cannot be destroyed, energy cannot be destroyed. He brought that and transferred the Moors, the sound of perfection to them, and he slayed them. This is how we control them. See, this is we have control and influence, but we don't know how to yield it. But
well,
that was a great example of signal interruption. Those Europeans were interrupted.
I was interrupted. That's why I was like, I didn't mean to say it the way I said it, but I'm like, that's excellence, because you know that my family has a musical background.
Right.
So that's why I was like, shh, you know, like this right here is otherworldly. That's not from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is fine art. And this is, you know, we got to remember back in the day, you hit a wrong note on the piano, your hand got cracked. We were perfectionists.
Yep.
And you don't hear McDonald's or Dollar Menu in his throat structure when he's singing.
No.
So, right. So we need to get back to the status of perfectionists because this is what we could produce. And that is just the bottom line of it. Right. I don't, and that's part of the reason why I wrote this whole 3-volume series. I will not be attacked. And I'm going to investigate your forms of attack and where they come from and why you think it is a normalcy and why other natives think it's a normalcy. You know, we're at a standpoint right now where everybody thinks whatever comes through media, we're supposed to duplicate and imitate. And if you do that around me, I'm immediately calling you brainless and soulless. And I will not carry on any form of connection with you. Like, you know, I don't watch TV, you know. My kids don't watch TV, you know. I don't like influence of no sort, you know, because I don't know who you are or where you come from. I don't know what was done to you when you were 5 years old. I'm not even going to try to figure it out. So your behaviors are your behaviors, and I'm not going to imitate none of your nonsense. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead, Melinda.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it kind of goes back to when I heard him, you know, we do know how to do this, right? We have several artists that know how to do this, but it's perverted. Okay, because it gets connected, they get connected to the wrong people and get caught up in the wrong stuff. And it kind of goes back to what we were alluding earlier, like how does, these stars have all this money and everything else. But there's so much other stuff that goes with it. I mean, there's a lot of talent within our community, but it gets perverted. So it's on a different frequency. It's on a frequency that brings about death and us killing each other instead of bringing this kind of excellence, and where it transcends anything on this earth. That's powerful. So that's all I
remember
wanted to say.
Chris talked about one of the reasons why we particularly our youth suffer is because they don't have command of the English language. In order to sing opera, guess what you have to have? Command of the language. And look at what that command did. It froze those people in their seats. It froze them in time. So there are frequencies that can be developed where we just completely neutralize them and freeze them in their time. Because at that moment, nobody was thinking about killing. Nobody was, there was no debauchery there. There was nothing but reverence.
I wanted to show you all this too. This is the drawing of St. George. He is called the Dragon, as there were a group of Moors called the Dragon Moors.
Is this the movie that's coming out?
Yeah, this is a early cartoon of him. Okay, and he was called St. George the Dragon. There were a group of Moors called the Dragon Moors during that time period. And here's a picture of some of the activities that Dragon Moors were conducting.
So they were
these are Muslims.
Warriors. Dragon.
Dragon Moors were Islam, and they were torturing Christians. And this is a picture of them. If you look close.
Okay.
This is a drawing of many different forms of torture that was going on Christians. As you see, this guy right here is.
Do you have that photo, brother, that you showed me or sent to me, that you texted me? Remember? And you said,
yeah, I don't think I have it in this folder, but yeah, I have it. It will be used. Okay. I will state that. And but this is another one. Excuse me. This is another one of those pictures that I'm presenting right here that shows many different forms of torture that I meant to show the Catholic torture chamber, but we didn't get around to it. And yeah, you see it. All of these guys have on turbans. These are the Berbers.
How's your time, brother? How's the people's time? I don't know if you have time to just briefly go through
the Dragon Moors were they the ones that came to America?
Well, no, by that time there was a lot of pirates. So like George Washington went to the war with the Riff Raff Moors. There's a different group. They diverted up into a lot of different groups. As a matter of fact, if you go down to the 1600s, 1500s, Negro and Moor were terms that were synonymous with each other and didn't break up until the African American slave trade started. And they kept Moor as a term that drafted out in old Europe. And they kept Negro as a term for the new African American, for the new blacks that were coming to America.
Yes.
Yeah, so I can do it real quick. We can.
Yeah, please.
This would be real quick. You see it on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, these are tongue pinchers. These were pinchers designed specifically for pulling out tongues. This is how they did it. Okay. Let's go down to the next page. Okay. As you just saw in the Barbary picture that I just showed, let me see if I can pull it. Well, I'd have to do all the screen share thing. But there's one picture where they show them using this. The barrels on your top right-hand side. These are barrels with nails and spikes in them. They put the individual in it and then roll them down the hill. Okay. On the left-hand side, these are a form of a Scold's brittle. okay, and the skull's brittle was basically a what does it say here? An iron gag. It's called a mute's brittle, and that part, that little iron part right here, is designed to make the tongue not move and shut your mouth with your babbling. Okay, the Nabi crown is a crown that was used to screw onto your skull, which is actually a mockery of the thorns, the Jesus's thorn crown. Okay, this right here is the iron mask, which was a mask that was put on your head, and then they would pour oil down the ears. You see the ears have a funnel, so they would pour hot bubbling oil down the ears, and your screams would not, and come out the horns right here. And then this is a drawing of the Auto de Fe at Valladolid, and showing how many people were burned all at once at the stake. It said it was there was records of up to 600 people burned at once, I think it was, or 600 people burned in one day. Excuse me at that. But they would burn maybe about 50 people at once, all at one time, in mass fires. So this right here is called the strapado. And the strapado is a device to have your arms behind your back, which may be the origins of being arrested comes from. And then they put the weight on your feet as they extend you into the air. So then your body is basically pulling apart, okay? Slowly but surely. And sometimes they'll leave you hanging like this for hours. Okay, this is the ladder's rack, or also called Jacob's ladder, which has some astrological significance to it. I won't go into all of that. I think it's supposed to be correlated to the Milky Way, but this was also used for disemboweling and also castration. Okay, and it was publicized, and that's why the Jacob ladder is leaning up against the castle wall. Okay, this right here is called the Pope's pear. Right here on your right hand side, the Pope's pear was designed specifically for witches or ladies of the night, prostitutes that were ravaging the land, and homosexuals. Okay, they would put this in the fire until it's red hot, and then they'll insert it, and then they'll twist the handle for it to open up inside you. Okay, this is called the witch's chair. These are 3 different forms of the same witch's chair. This was designed by Christians. All right, and they put your legs down here, and then they'll screw it all in, and they'll screw weights onto your hands, and then they'll also tighten this band right here that goes across your chest to have your back go into the spikes, your arms go into the spikes, and your legs go into the spikes. Come on, Melinda. You got to look at it, Melinda. Come on. So, yeah, this one right here. This one right here.
Don't stare. My beard doesn't go over my eyes.
And this one right here on the top left-hand side is the head crusher. Okay, they put your head down here, and then they'll twist the top and flatten it out, and your eyeballs go flying out your head at a certain speed. Okay, and I'm used to this shit. You have to understand, I've read this material like over and over and over and over and over, so I'm conditioned to it. You know, it's nothing to me. But this right here on the right hand side is Judas's cradle, and this is specifically designed once again for those creating the buggery. If you were caught doing the buggery, we put you on this Judas cradle right here, and we put the weights on your feet. And we'll see how you like the buggery now, sitting on the pyramid. Okay. That's all right. They'd hoist the body up to make it bounce too. You see, that's why the strings and all of that is right there. Okay. And then this is the iron boot. And there's 2 different forms of the iron boot. Well, actually, these are 3 different forms. So this one is red hot. You put your foot in here. This one was also red hot. You put your foot in here, and they would let you walk with it. And then this one right here, you have to sit down in the chair and put your legs both in it. And then they tighten the slabs that are on either side of the leg by slamming this piece in the middle. Okay. This one right here is the Iron Maiden. I don't think the Iron Maiden was really true. They say this was never used. There's no documents of it actually being used. So, but this right here in the left-hand corner is called the mace. So like the cops use the mace now, they could use the terminology from this. This was the ball with the spikes on the end of the stick. Okay. But the Iron's Maiden, which is the standing coffin that has spikes in it, and then you shut the doors on it, there's no documentation anywhere of this being created or being used. But what has occurred is touring, what do they call it? You know, you just when people come in to tour a museum or whatever, they created tourist attraction. There it is. Sorry about that. And I live in Vegas. I'm sorry about that. But right, but the tourist attraction element is why they created this. Supposedly, there's a lot of facsimile that was created over time as castles of different regions shut down, and you know, and things of that nature, right? So we also have here the heretic fork for those who run the mouth. We put this fork right here, we strap it around your neck, and your chin goes up, and we'll see if you yak that mouth any further. Okay. And this right here on the left-hand side is actually a device that was created in Rome. And the creator who made it was the first one who was used in it. And that's usually the case with a lot of these torture devices that were presented to the king. If you brought a torture device in, he would usually throw you right in it. So the one thing about the brazen bull is when they throw you inside this bull and set it afire on the bottom, which this thing was made of brass, your screams and your wailing would actually make it sound like the bull's wailing coming out the nose and out of the horns in the mouth of the bull. Okay. This right here was called the thief catcher. Over here, the heretic catcher on the right-hand side at the bottom. And the reason why it's because I can show you it here too. You see it has the stick right here on the side. So the heretic catcher is because a lot of heretics were diseased, were blasphemous. They had leprosy and things of this nature, and nobody wanted to touch them because of their taint. Okay. And in order to not be defiled with the criminal's taint and demons that run amongst his clothing and his hair, we must have the heretic catcher here, which has a stick on it. And if he moves in any crazy way, those spikes go right into the neck. Okay. So right here we have the lead sprinkler, which is the origins of your salt shaker and your pepper shaker right here. And they put, you know, they put hot lead. The top half of the spear is removed and the lower half is filled with molten metal, boiling oil or boiling water, flicking the sprinkler towards the pinioned victim, showers them with the boiling contents of this nasty holy water sprinkler. This is the origins of your salt and pepper shaker right here. This right here is called, on the right-hand side, is called riding the wooden horse, the Spanish donkey. You know, we put you on this stick, on this horse right here. And it's also the horse that they use in the Olympics, right? Gymnastics, right? But this one has a spike on it. It's triangle. They put you on top of here, and then they put the weights on your feet. And they just leave you in the room for hours. Okay. This right here on the left-hand side is called the crocodile shears, which was used sort of like the pinchers and the tongue ripper that I was showing earlier. Now on the right-hand side, these are called the jowls. So this is also similar to the rosary beads. The rosary beads origin was a torture device, and they were real big beads that you would have to wear if you were caught sleeping in church. So I know all of us as children, we fell asleep in church and you got your ear pulled or you got flicked or pinched to stay awake. In earlier times, they'll throw you in the jogs and have you stand outside of the church in this collar that's connected to the church and underneath the lamp that's right by the front door. So you know when you come up in here, you are going to hear the word of the Lord and you are not going to fall asleep. Okay. And this right here are branders. So they'll brand you. You know, the practice of branding as a punishment was widespread in Christendom, and it was also used on slaves and animals to indicate ownership. These are slave brands, branding irons of the Catholic Church right here. Okay. So we will keep order and you will abide by. Okay. If not, we have consequence. And it's simple as that. You will serve your penance. Okay. So yeah, there it is. That's the little torture section. And any questions? We got Yoshi right here. Want to say something? Go ahead.
It's safe to say that your friendly neighborhood Rev Shock wouldn't have made it during these times.
Not me neither.
It's kind of safe to say that, I think.
Yeah. During church, I was in the basement playing house with the other girls in the church, so you know.
Oh man.
Oh, didn't
move
mean to put
on.
that
Let's
up.
move
Go
on,
ahead,
Keaton. Let's move on.
Yoshi, come with us, Yoshi.
Your Las Vegas.
What do you have to say? Yeah, my Vegas is coming out, right? Go ahead.
I'm kind of confused because at 1 minute, you know, these sick bastards, they like practicing homosexuality, you know, and then next minute they killing homosexuals, and then they embrace it, and then they kill them, and then it's almost like a off and on thing with them. It's like 1 minute they in Greece having orgies and all bathing together, and then the next minute now they massacring homosexuals. So it's like, what is going on with these people, man? Like, are they? Because I know that they love that masculinity stuff, but then they practice it, but then they kill each other for doing it, man. I don't get it.
Well, in Greece is a different time period. There was no Catholicism in Greece.
Right, Roman Greece, yeah.
Right, Roman Greece.
But that's where they come from, right? Then they come.
Yeah, they come from the Greece, and the Greece picture has hardcore homo activity going on. There was so much homo activity going on in Greece that it was incorporated into their political structure and how they operated throughout the entire environment, and also with the development of their philosophy. A lot of stuff was going on. So, but that's also due to medical information that they discovered from ancient Egypt. Okay, that's the bottom line that nobody talks about. When you got to go through the gynecological records of ancient Greece and also ancient Egypt, and when you thoroughly understand what was going on, you have to look at Greece was in a stance of fear, of not understanding thoroughly of what the woman was. You know, Rome went through a very hardcore control mechanism of the female activity, and then in medieval times, they just decided to slaughter it out because it was a psychological control. So basically, like I stated earlier in this show, it's hard to explain, bro, and everybody's not going to get it. It's actually like high level secret society type shit. I mean, I do know it in a blatant stance. Philip has heard me say it many times before. I don't want to be offensive towards the ladies that's on the show, but it's just the dynamic. Women have a double dynamic, and women, through that double dynamic, they could cause mass confusion amongst men who aren't psychologically in a superior stance, shall I say, and more experienced to understand the female dynamic and the double entendre that they speak and produce. Hence, they produce women and men. They produce male and female. So basically, what happened in Greece was these cats, and there's no justification towards it. I'm not stating it in any justification standpoint. They were just in fear. They didn't know thoroughly what a woman was, and it's pretty obvious. We can see it through the activity of their emperors and what was going on with the emperors and their mothers and so on and so forth, and through the course of medieval and what was going on with the witch trials and the witch hunts and the burnings and all of that. It was to divide the female psyche from listening to her own uteri and listening to her male. Women will listen to their uteri and will listen to and will stay attached to society before they listen to and submit to a male. 80% of the males that are born on this planet do not have the finesse, the ambiance, or the Casanovaism for a woman, okay? They're born to build, and that's all they're born for. That's why prostitution has always been available. So you can go get your means without nobody saying it, because we all know a woman's power. If you don't sexually please her, she could twitch her nose and your whole soul is gone, okay? And we all know that. If you if you don't sexually please her, she can say 1-2 words and your soul drifts out the chimney. Okay, right, but there's deep elements to this, and this stuff goes all the way back to ancient Egypt. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of other understandings that you have to be able to thoroughly comprehend what I'm saying right now. And I didn't really want to go there, but this is basically the bottom line of what's really occurring. You dig what I'm saying? So when it comes to the homo activity, they slaughtered it. They attacked it as much as possible. The Catholic religion is based on female mental complexity. Okay, that's what all the Marys represent. That's what all the Black Madonnas represent. That's what all the wars represent. That's what all the military orders represent. They represent the beauty, the finesse, the blood, the passion of the female psyche. Okay, that's basically what it is.
Adira, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, Keenan, you basically answered it, talking about what the real game is, what's really up, you know? So, because what I'm looking at, you're showing us that they're coming down on witchcraft, and tonight you went over the heretics and the different people that are on trial, you know, for not following the doctrine. But yeah, you're also saying that they took the same mysteries behind the practices these people were doing and incorporated into their own system. Mm-hmm. So on the one hand, you're condemning it, and on the other hand, you're repackaging it.
Right. And why? Yeah. Because of time. Because of time. That's why. Why did they do that? Because of time. Egypt had to merge into Greece. Greece had to merge into Rome. You know, Spain had to merge into the islands. You know, it's because of time. The goal, I guess, was world domination. And that's what we have now. You know, from China to Africa to Papua New Guinea, you were driving cars, you are using walkie-talkies, you are reading books, and you are catching your news and your daily show on the television. Okay? That's what we're doing across the whole entire globe. It has been world domination, and obviously the things that they put together over time has created the system for that to occur. The new world order, we're already in it, you know? Mm-hmm. I mean, and it was done by invention. If you want to get down to the nitty gritty, it was done through industrialism and through invention and through the provision of convenience. Convenience develops worship. Okay. If I come to your land and I bring a lighter and you're a tribe that's been using a flintstone, my convenience of this lighter is going to turn me into a god to your people. And that's what has happened. Invention is going to make convenience. Convenience is going to enforce, and it's not enforced by my own pillaging. You're going to do it voluntarily. You voluntarily worship anybody who makes an easier system for you. Okay? So you don't have to bake bread. You go buy it from the store. You know?
So, all right. Questions and comments.
I do have a question.
Go ahead, Doc.
The psychic game was to take women out of power and represent them as being psychologically inept.
You mean the witch burning situation?
Yeah, witch burning, all that.
It wasn't to take them out of the power. It was, see, if a woman says I'm powerful and the man says I'm powerful, then that means there's division. And with this division, we have no growth. And that is the element of us having feces being thrown out the window. So as soon as we have an agreement on how we need to be operating in our specific roles, we can have progression. And men invent. Women don't invent. So women can use psychic power and herbs all day, but you're not developing bridges or planes. Men develop bridges and planes. We can sit around and do the technology and the industry thing without a problem. We're the blacksmiths, we're the goldsmiths, we do that. So in order to maximize these scenarios, men need happiness when they go home. And if men don't have happiness when they go home, guess what? Nothing will be developed. So in order for us to have a progression line, we need women in sync with that system. And with that system, we have growth.
Okay, so let me reword this, because now I'm going to just talk about us. Now, us as the women and men, there was a time where we were in sync with that. However, and I always think of this, our men didn't think that they were men because they wore signs in the 1960s displaying that they were men. Now, so in that 60 round, did a whole lot of things because our men wanted to make sure that they were in a position to innovate, and they were not placed in a position to innovate. They integrated, but not to innovate. So then they would go home, beat their women, do all of this, have multiple affairs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Our women then went into the ERA movement because of all of that.
Okay, let me show you. In slavery, Black women were raped and pillaged by white males. And that's that sexual debauchery that was put on Black women, which was also done on many different cultures of women across the whole entire planet. So it wasn't just Black women, okay?
That's right.
But there's lineages of family dominance by Europeans in all cultures. You'll find it in Hawaiian, you'll find it in the Samoan, you'll find it over here. There's a little line of families in China, there's a little line of families in India, boom, boom, boom. The British came over there and did the sexual slaughter. They did enough sexual slaughter where you submitted to them and not towards Black males. If you really want to get down to the technicalities of it, which is synonymous with what was going on with witchcraft, there was no law in the old worlds, is what we got to understand. If you got away with it, you got right. There was an agreement amongst males on how they operated with women, and part of that agreement was do whatever you want. At 12 years old, women were sold as wives or sold as slaves. Okay, and that was the system. There was no talking, there wasn't no agreeing, there wasn't buying flowers and writing poems. That's not how the old world operated when it came to male and female dynamic. The majority, and when we talk about tribal Africa and what was going on, a lot of the kings would have 200, 300 wives at a time. They were thinking with their cocks and being boss hog with it. They were hogging the women, okay? And they were using them for trading principalities. And that's what happened when the French and the Spaniard came down there with the homie and all of that. They would release them and let them go and was trading them for guns and rum, okay? And those are the stories. And you can find that in a multiple different tribal conditions throughout the course of Africa when you talk about 1700s and 1800s and what was going on. And the literature that supports that were written by unbiased German anthropologists. Okay, because they were comparing them and some of their conditions of the fact that they had no crime, they had no murder, they had no thieving, nobody went hungry, there was no form of bum or anything like that going on in those tribal conditions. But also at the same time, a lot of the kings, and if you had the financial status to do so, I'm trading 3 cows for 2 daughters of yours. That's the dowry. And there was no communication. There was no big, I got to romance her. I got to write letters. I got to get on bended knee. It wasn't none of that. All of this new romanticized system is, hence the word Roman in romantic, is new towards the world. Okay, this situation that we're in now when it comes to male-female dynamic is extremely new. There's never been a time period where, Well, and don't take any offense to this, ladies, but 30-year-old women with children who think they should be sexualized or taken out on a date. That is something new to human existence across the board. It doesn't matter if you go to China, Japan, Africa, it doesn't matter where you go. That was not the situation on how we operated with each other. You see, so what happened is a lot of abuse, that what we term as abuse, or what we term as prostitution, or what it would be called, there was a lot of different names for it, because in certain tribes, they would give the chief would give his wife to a new traveler that would come through and let him stay in the hut all night. You know, it was a thing. Women were a trade. Women were considered a money, just like they were synonymous to a cow. And this is the old world. That was across the board. Didn't matter if you went to Mexico, the islands, this was the system. So that's why everybody's running around in confusion in divorce court now, because we've been swiped of history and we haven't been told history. And part of the swiping of male-female communication occurred with the wars. World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, Korean War. All of these wars are swiping out males. Okay. Yeah. So swiping out males left male children in an unknown status on how to operate with women. And then we incorporate all of this, Frank Sinatra imagery with the roses and to the singing to the girls. And like I was stating earlier, females have a double dynamic of thinking. They're more worried about their fun and entertainment and base their divorces on being bored or infidelity, when women can commit infidelity. And that won't be a cause that a male can bring to court and he get a child support or any type of allegiance or any type of value out of the situation. You see what I'm saying? So basically, Europeans have set us up, and they set us up by making women submit to their provision line. And it's almost in a system where women are farming their children and their men towards the European system without them knowing, or they do know. You see,
that's why we got a lot of powerful women and 9-volt battery Negroes.
Well, the whole thing is because it's all about where a woman.
Doc, that was great.
It all depends on where a woman dedicates her energy, because if you want to go down to the nit grit, it's about the virility of the male, and women know this, and white males in science know this. So what's happening is that these babies are being born vaginally and they're not being breastfed. So therefore, they don't have the erection capacity to get oxytocin out of the woman's vaginal, and she falls into that submission line, because humans are chemically operated. Okay. So if I give you alcohol, you'll turn drunk. If I give you too much testosterone, you'll produce a mustache, because humans are chemically operated. And that also goes into the oxytocin factor. So if you can't get oxytocin out of a woman, she's always going to despise you. And this is where the whole relationship thing has been destroyed in America. Men don't have the phallus capacity to keep a woman excited and happy, at least for the extent of 4 to 8 years, to maintain a sound household, and that's the line. So women are in agreement with the European control, because Europeans give women the makeup, the Six Flags, the Chuck E. Cheese, the churches, and all these other worthless ass institutions that are going to drag males for the expenses. Okay. And also males are able to do their God-given right, which is their hobby. Their God-given right is whatever they're born for to produce when it comes to society. And, that goes into their occupational name. Like me, my name is Ancient Bookmaker. So I'm in my God-given right. And I don't let that type of situation occur in my household. You dig what I'm saying? So, yeah, but the majority of males don't know nothing about this shit. And like I said, 80% of males aren't even physically fit to excite or keep a woman,
Meanwhile, the Catholic Church has taken that feminine energy
Who's laughing?
You know, look, I always say I'm not in a relationship. I go get educated.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Europeans and Chinese are the only ones who educate their women. Look at how far their empires have gone because of that.
Mhm.
You see,
I tell women all the time, go get education. Do something else. Why you I watch people all the time. I said, oh shoot, they're in a relationship and they trigger each other.
right. Adira, you had something. Well, Yoshi, and then Adira, and then I definitely want Stephanie to say something because she'd have been here for the whole. I see it on your face. You got something to say, but go ahead, Yoshi.
Yeah, I know y'all ready to burn off, but I just had a quick question real quick. If I'm looking at the history of when white folks came out the mountains and was drunk and all that other kind of stuff, and then we look at some of the pictures, we always notice that there's a black person always with them whispering in their ear. So if these white people was drunk, doped up, fucked off, and they can't really think for themselves, and then you got these black people that's coming in that ain't drunk and fucked up and like, oh shit, we could tell them any goddamn thing, and then they manipulate them in a sense. White people figure out it's part of the manipulation how we all fucked up. Black people whispering in the ear, time to pay back black people, because you speak on the Moorish community on how they was fucking up people like how they was doing like a bunch of bad stuff, like the dirty Moors, what you say, the Islam Moors or whatnot, how they was doing all that, and how they looked at the Moors as black people, not necessarily a African or a Jamaican. They no, you're Moor, you're black. So if I'm looking at all this, we fucked up them while they was fucking up each other, and then they returned the favor to fuck us over because of what we did to them. And so they want us to feel what they feel. So they put us through their own interpretation of Dark Ages, while they feed us all these pictures and all this music and shit to throw it back on us. But instead, how they did it to each other, now we're doing it to each other, but under their ruling.
Mm-hmm.
So that's me stepping back, analyzing and peeping it and saying, yeah, man, we fucked up.
Yeah. No, you said it right. You said it right.
Cool.
You gave the a synopsis. I'm trying to find a picture to verbiate what you were just stating as y'all looking at all this craziness right here.
I see my heart is hurting again.
But yeah, I was about to show you a painting of a Sabbath. Usually the Sabbaths always have a black woman in it.
Baby aspirin, Sandra. Do some baby aspirin.
Yeah, baby aspirin. Yeah, for real.
Yeah. No, I don't want no aspirin. I'm gonna touch your heart. There you go. Bing. Okay.
Thank you.
I know that's right.
Yeah, I want no aspirin. We don't do that.
Too.
You know. So yeah.
Need some power.
Yeah, there it is. You know.
And I think that's what it is that just to have the knowledge of this. And when I look at our people, I began to get disheartened.
Yeah. See, look, you see this on the left-hand side? This is a black woman right here.
Yeah.
This is it. This is at the Sabbath. Wow. Okay. You see this one? This is called the Bacchanalian. There is a black woman right here who is amazed at what she has created.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. I knew this, man.
Yeah. No, you got it right. That's what I'm saying. You got it right. And because one thing that the Catholic Church is submitting to, that you just saw me draft through a lot of the other pictures that I was supposed to be showing you on the next show, were the pictures of the Black Madonnas, which is what we're going to be going over next time. And that is definitely proof of the submission to the fact that all races on this planet stem from the black woman. And, you know, there's a lot of other elements to it, you know, that put black women in both the Sabbath paintings and in the Black Madonna position. So we're going to be talking about both. You know, this is just information. I don't want anybody to be offended, but there is some real war shit going on this planet. You know, and it's all in the social realm. And that's what we got to understand and accept. It's in the social realm, you see? So yeah, all of this stuff is in the third volume. This is the medieval art and artifact section.
Mm.
You know,
It was like I was saying earlier, it's like earlier when we were doing the interview, you know, it all goes back to us. We have to go back with inside ourselves because that's where all this shit comes from. Ourselves.
Yeah, this picture right
Our
here.
own.
This picture right here where I'm running the mouse over is called the cowpox. This is where a lot of the vaccination came from. When it came to like in inoculating a whole civilization at one time, it came from this situation, which was the cowpox. And this happened, I think, in 1802. Yeah. Okay. So where'd she go? She got something to say. Stephanie, come on. You've been with us the whole 3 volumes. Come on, say something.
They telling us a story. They telling us in the programs on TV, the books, they telling us what they're all about. We're just not listening. We're too busy trying to.
It's not that we're not listening. We didn't know. Nobody taught us their history to comprehend what we're seeing.
We thought it was entertainment.
Yeah, we just rub off a lot of things as entertainment. That's how we destroyed the whole conscious community. It's because we put no seriousness to it, and we just wrote, "Oh, it's just entertainment. You know, it's nothing." You know, and we just go back to the daily schmo. You know, but then also that's evading responsibility. We don't take on responsibility. We don't take on great feats. We don't set up goals for ourselves to achieve and dominate those things.
Now you kind of see what I've been going through in the quote unquote Hotep movement, and why none of them want anything to do with me, because they're about entertainment, not entrainment. This is brain entrainment. We are changing our neurobiology by looking and consuming and getting knowledge and wisdom of the ages. They don't want that. They just want to be Hoteppers, talk about a book and debate and argue and feel like they're winning because their self-esteem is vacant.
Self-esteem is vacant. This picture right here on the right-hand side. Yes,
Kimness, I didn't see Kimness. Hey, Kimness, where you been, bro?
This is an elephant being hung. This happened in Tennessee. Okay. And her name was Mary. So this is basically saying we are dominant on the world. We will take your biggest being and hang it. Okay. Yeah. This is a metaphysic. This is an alchemy right here. We'll take the biggest being in your zone and lynch it.
So that's why they travel all over the world now and document they traveling and climb the mountains and do all that, because they wasn't around to do none of that.
Yeah, but they don't have an original story. They don't have a first story. So this is why they have to go around the world and pick all of this and do all this stuff, so that becomes their first story.
No, it's because they're interested. I need you to be interested. Exploration, discovery.
No, I mean,
that's what
they're second on the human tree. So they don't have the first story of building pyramids and being one with the, you know, all of that. So when they finally arrive, when quote unquote the European finally emerged on the scene, they didn't have a culture. They didn't have anything. They had to invent it, make it up. That's why they had to dominate, because there was everything was already taken.
They were deracinated. I know, brother.
Hey, Kimness.
What's up, man? I've been listening to everything, y'all, but I've been working at the same time, so I didn't interrupt. Now I'm stepping out. But brother Reagan, what's the brother? The preacher's brother?
Booker.
Booker. But no, Booker.
Keenan Booker, yeah.
No, I got you, Keenan Booker. But now I'm thinking of the preacher brother, the Reagan, Ray Higgins.
Ray Higgins, yeah.
Yeah, that brother, he introduced a term to me called deracination, like you disroot it. And you know, these people coming out the caves, they're disrooted. They didn't have a connection, so they had to create their own law, which is what they've been doing, which is what Brother Booker's been showing us, how they've been creating their own law, and then it just sucked us up into it.
See, this is a little magic right here in this picture right here on the left-hand side, putting the bunny ears. That's not really bunny ears. Those are deer antlers, and it's a cuckold ritual. So when we were doing that to each other as kids, it was social engineering. And it was basically to break you down and to pay the lady of the night.
What's on the token? What is on the token?
Which token? This one right here? This is a French brothel token.
Absolutely not. Above.
Above? This one right here?
To the far right.
Oh, to the far right, this is a brothel token. We are hunting. You understand?
That's a Yanni.
Yeah, we go for great sport.
Sad.
No, that's not sad. That's called joy. That's called love for a man. That's what he's looking for. That's where he releases, stress of the day and his creativity for the future. You have to understand. Yeah, that's what it is. No. The uteri creates humans, is what you're not understanding here. So the uteri is the source of creation of everything that you see. Hence, once that white boy went around the whole planet and poked on all the women across the planet, they came back to America and created products. Did they not? Okay, it is the source of
put it on a coin.
Yeah, put it on a coin. It is to be seen. It is to be smelt upon. Put it on a poster, draw it on the wall. What are you talking about? This is what men do. And if we're not doing it, no, stop demonizing it. It is the process of the creation of humans.
About the black woman's vagina. Come on now.
Yeah, we need to stop demonizing it. This is where your next generation is coming from.
Well,
right here.
Demonize mine, because I know that it is a beautiful thing. Heaven on earth.
Yeah, let's not shake our heads at it, because a lot of women like to use it as some baiting piece to create a slave out of a man. And I know that's the intention, but no, it needs to be utilized as the source of creation, not only just for art, but for inventions, for your health. There is a sexual health that needs to be maintained as well. And I'm guaranteed if sexual health,
not sexual lust and perversion.
Hey, but there's a thin,
there's a fucking difference. I'm sorry.
There is a thin line.
You gotta draw the line.
But hold on, there's a very thin line, because let me show you this. If you
had
no
that thin line, right?
Yes, it is. No, there is no right or wrong with it.
You cannot do this with kids. That's what the fuck I'm talking about.
Who said anything about kids?
It's only adults.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, I didn't say anything about kids.
When you saying it's a thin line, perversion is perversion. I don't give a fuck if it's with an adult or a child.
What? I didn't say anything about no children. We're all adults here. So I'm speaking in an adult realm. My brain isn't objectifying no form of child during this conversation.
I'm a counselor, so that's where I was coming from with it.
Okay, I'm not, but I'm telling you, I'm not in that room. So I don't think like that. So a child is not even in the conversation. You know what I'm saying? I'm not in that conversation or in that lane.
I think that I would like to know. Maybe I need to look up into it for myself, but I want to know what we were doing before all this was created, all this, because this is just still a short period of time, a short window of time. They've only been here for a short window of time. I don't feel like women were symbolically looked upon in that way for all eternity.
Well, go through history and tell me what you find. Because I got a lot of documents from a lot of different locations and a lot of different time periods. And like I was saying, women were sold off at 12 years old.
Well, okay, so my point to all of that is, this is what they're depicting. This is their story.
No, but
I'm point of women. Do we see our history of this? Does this go back in our history?
Like I said,
goes on too.
African tribal kings had 200, 300 wives. Right now, to this day, African tribes are trading cows for women.
I want to know where we went wrong. There is
nothing going wrong. It is the fact that a woman can make a man run around in a circle all day long, okay, in the massive confusion if he listens to her. That's the point. If she's not educated in the standpoint to objectify things in a progressive format, then a woman is going to make a man chase his tail. And that is what you see on your divorce court TV shows. That is what you see on Maury. That is what you see when you walk outside your door every day.
But that's not, but that is not always the case. It's not always the case.
Like I said, for women who are educated, that is not the case. For the women who aren't educated and trained, okay, let me show you something. When it comes to high school, boys have already been through crime. They've been through fighting. They've been through sports. They understand their social communication when it comes to adults, when it comes to the so-called homies, who their enemies are. Men have to put all of those things into their perception of existence. Females don't. They're not playing any sports in high school. Okay.
Yeah,
So that, or like what?
they play basketball, they play sports.
We're talking about on a majority rule standpoint. This is a major for males. That is not a major for females. Nobody's parents is trying to enforce them to be in football, baseball, or basketball. That is an enforcement the majority of males go through. And we learn that you have to win. You have to strategize to win. You have to strategize with a group. And then once you win, you're not done winning yet. You have to beat a team. Then you have to beat the whole section of the city. Then you have to beat the county. Then you have to beat the state. You have to try to achieve to get the championship. This is not a mentality that is installed inside women.
It's not.
You have to understand these things. You see, women are given Barbie dolls per human control. Okay, for the fantasy development of what they want to perceive in the future, for how they want to maintain things and who should be doing what and what type of car you should be having. She's not being educated on maintaining your hobby or whatever your interests are in order to provide those things for her.
I kind of, I mean, we're only entitled to our opinions. I beg to differ on a lot of levels. And that wasn't the way I raised my daughters. I can run a whole company. You know what I mean? I have ran companies.
There's always an exception to the rule, but there is always the majority rule. And the majority rule will always be the major. Exceptions to the rule will be your miracle cases.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, this is a perfect argument.
Elijah Muhammad said a long time ago, a nation can only rise as high as its woman.
Yeah.
So when women don't have an education, the children are lost.
When we focus on beauty or just focus on, you know what I'm saying? And I get that. Yeah.
Right. And you have to understand
the whole nature of the woman is not focused properly.
Right.
She's not focused on her family. See, because when you're educated, you're concerned about what your children are learning.
Mm-hmm.
You're concerned about them being on the tablet too long and playing the game too long, and who in the house. Most people, I hear the stories all the time. I hear children say their mother doesn't love me. And they're referring to an uneducated woman.
Right. And I don't want anybody to feel like I'm badgering them. I love all of you women that's on this panel. Okay, let's be very clear here. The clearest part about it is that you are in an environment that socially influences. Okay. And we've all been taught differently pertaining to what location of the country we're in and all our individual experiences. You see what I'm saying? So don't think I'm badgering or pointing the finger. We are born into this situation and it wasn't designed by us. That's why I went through this medieval to find out the true roots of its design. You see what I'm saying?
Well, allow me to say this. My woman is in control, and that means I have to do the affirmation of power right now. Okay.
Miriam, do you get me? Do you get me, Miriam?
Yeah, I do.
Just,
we're gonna have a part 2, I guess.
We're talking about Black Madonnas next week. So there goes the love right there. I provided over 120 of them. So the little Black girls could have self-esteem boost because we don't have Felicia Rashad. We don't have Etta James. We don't have these things in society for little Black girls to look up to. Okay. And have a good projection of what a classy Black woman is.
You mean don't have women that know how to even dress anymore properly. And go out in the street, they don't really care what they look like.
Yeah, but we are programmed to, it's like you watch, you see it on TV and you want to look exactly like this. And I have this discussion with my daughters all the time. Just because you see them on TV with a blazer and no bra and cleavage showing, you don't have to set your own trend. Right. You said you're the leader. When you following her, you're going to follow them right off the cliff. You set your own standards, So we have to have more of us that speak up and speak out.
Okay,
All
well,
right,
he got to do his affirmation. I don't want nobody getting in trouble.
Yeah, you want to be here next week, and you want to see me Friday, right? Not without, where I have to wear makeup because of all the cuts and bruises. But anyway,
All right, don't get on me.
all right, family, I appreciate.
Well, thank you,
This is
Keenan. This
important,
was
though.
really
I really
good.
appreciate the dialogue and the Q&A and the commenting, because that lets you know that it's seeping in, it's getting there, you're thinking deeply, and so that's exactly what you want from a webinar. So we give honks and thanks to Brother Keenan for enduring however many years it took for him to pull this together and what he had to go through, and still is going through it. It ain't over yet. He's still going through it, and he's sharing it with us, and now we're going through it. And you can see how some of the dialogues and just some of our own confirmation biases come into play, because we have a particular way of seeing the world, viewing the world, and it is definitely contradicting to how these people lived in their world. That being said, we give thanks for understanding and onks for discernment, and we simply say, I am one with first frequency.
I am one with first frequency.
I am one with the first thought idea.
I am one with the first thought idea.
I am one with the firstborn people.
I am one with the firstborn people.
Therefore, I must be one with the only one.
Therefore, I must be one with the only one.
Only one.
Ashe.
All right, my family.
Okay, don't be offended. I love y'all all. Y'all be here for the Black Madonna. I didn't mean to go into all of that, but this crazy world we're in. So I blame the world.
Blame it all on me. That's what Dr. Winters does.
I'm gonna blame it on the year 2023. I'm put all the blame right there, Okay. So yeah, y'all join us on the Black Madonna show, because we're gonna go over many of them, and it's all joyous. There is no dark side to it. Okay. So yeah.
All right, family.
All right.
Today is Tuesday. I will see you Thursday with Dr. Winters, and then I'll see you guys Friday on mine.
Okay.
Hotep fam. Peace.
Hotep. Peace.